This is the Deeper Dive presented by Awesemo.com. I'm Alex Baker. I'm joined here by Adam Scherer, aka Ship My Money DFS. Adam, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Nice 11 gamer after yesterday's 4 gamer. So lots of different options to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, let's start off there. I mean, there's so many different options tonight. It's actually a little bit comparable in the fact that last night we didn't see a ton of inactive players. It looks like mostly the slate is pretty healthy tonight, aside from a few other options. But I mean, there's so many choices. What's your kind of general approach for 11 games versus 4?
Normally, and it's weird, normally on slates like this, you just kind of end up with a lot of good value. And so it's really easy to build those stars and scrubs lineups to give you a lot of upside. But it's like the value that we have now has been value for they've been the guys for the last week and a half. So they're not really cheap anymore. Ben Simmons right now is like the only guy that is out that we haven't had prices really adjusted for. So on a slate like this, I think it's a little bit different just because it's a little harder to get those stars and scrubs lineups and be different because everybody's using the same cheap players. So I don't know. I think that from at least building some early lineups, I think I may end up a little bit more in that like 8K range tonight than I normally do.
That's pretty interesting. So I mean, there are some pretty spend up options like we got Giannis on the slate, Towns. But of course, to get to those guys, you need to get some cheapy plays. And from what you're saying, it sounds like there's a pretty limited pool that are actually appealing.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at guys thinking about DraftKings pricing, when you look at guys that are 4K or less that you can roster and you're not just like praying for the guy ahead of them to get in foul trouble or something, it's pretty limited. And, it's not even like Philly where that the most obvious value is in a good matchup either. So it's, I think, a really, really interesting slate as far as trying to find value on it.
Yeah, I think so. This first game may not be the most ideal to talk about, so I'll get it out of the way quickly. We got Cleveland at Washington. So the big news a few slates ago was that Isaiah Thomas is now the starting point guard in Washington, and he's been seeing about 24 minutes a game. Of course, Bradley Beal, always a pretty good fantasy play in Cleveland. Not the most talented team in the NBA these days. So are you interested in the Wizards here?
Yeah, I think so. So one thing to point out with the Wizards that makes it tough to like a lot of their players is that they are getting healthy. They have Troy Brown back, they have CJ Miles back, and they've announced that Isak Bonga isn't starting tonight. I haven't seen who is starting. My guess is Troy Brown. It's pretty much has to be either him or CJ Miles. But what's happened is that you're seeing Rui lose some minutes, or at least his minutes be less consistent and more based on his play. You're seeing Thomas Bryant's minutes fluctuate more as a result of Mo Wagner, being a pretty competent backup when he's not fouling. So it's tougher to get to the front court guys. But I do think that Bradley Beal in particular is a great play. He's really underpriced. Cleveland's not a great defensive team, but Beal's shooting this year has been awful. But it's going to come back. He had a 54% effective field goal percentage last year. He's at about 46.5% this season, still playing huge minutes, hasn't taken a hit as far as usage goes since Isaiah Thomas joined the starting lineup, still gets assist opportunities, still has the ball in his hands a ton. So he's a guy that I'm building around tonight because I think he gives you that 50 to 60 fantasy point upside without having to pay a 10K price tag.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this is a guy that last year he was going out and playing up to 40 minutes a game. And I think we've seen some games where he's gotten that kind of minutes. So that gives you a ton of upside. And that price at 8,600 on DraftKings, 9,100 on FanDuel. Pretty appealing. So going deeper into this Isaac Bonga situation, I mean, you got to hate that he's getting benched on his birthday.
But I didn't know this was his birthday.
Yeah, not the best present there. But
have to hit up Andy Dalton and talk things out with him.
So if Troy Brown starts, it looks like he's only 4K on FanDuel, and he'd probably play upper 20s in minutes, I would guess. Or are you seeing it a little bit differently?
Yeah, no, that's how I see it too. And I think he's one of the guys that you can look to in tournaments. Like he's not going to be someone that you necessarily want to go to in cash games because there's plays that the minutes are more secure, but most of those plays have pretty significant downside in terms of production, and they're far from sure things. So in tournaments, whereas right now we have Troy Brown projected for 4% ownership on DraftKings, if he's going to get 27, 28 minutes against Cleveland, he is he has the opportunity at least to have a good game. So he's one of the cheaper value guys that I think if his ownership does stay low, I'll be pivoting to.
Right on, man. I think that's a pretty good option. Rui, his price has gone down, but the minutes have gone down as well. He looks like he might be an option on DraftKings where he's only 4,600. As far as Cleveland, Kevin Love's usage has been down a lot this year, but his rebounding is up. Are you seeing any way you'd get to him?
Yeah, his usage is climbing too. It was really low in those first couple of games, and it was really weird how low it was. But it's starting to come back up. You might not see it get to the 27% that it was last year, but I think anywhere in that 23.5 to 24.5% range is a pretty good projection on a game-to-game basis. And then on top of that, the rebounding's been great. Washington's not a good defensive team. They play at a reasonably fast pace. So I think it is a really good spot for Kevin Love. Again, with his salary where it is, it's kind of an awkward price point where if you're thinking in terms of cash games and optimal lineups, it's tough to get there because like you're almost to Towns or you're paying more than for some other guys. But whenever there's a high upside play like that, it means that their ownership is going to be pretty low in tournaments normally because people tend to play close to optimal lineups.
So you're telling me that Kevin Love isn't quite as good a play as Karl Anthony Towns?
not quite.
Okay, well that's disappointing. If you're still stuck on 2012 stats, then maybe Love would look a little better. But all right. So the show today we're brought to you by Yahoo Daily Fantasy, and Yahoo has really upped their game this season for NBA. They got the 50K baller tonight, $10,000 to first. And my general advice is that if you go to Yahoo, you're going to be facing weaker competition on a daily basis because with NBA, there's so much late news that it's hard for people to manage more than a couple different sites. And if Yahoo is third or fourth on some people's lists, they might be putting in lineups that could be dead by the time lock happens. So I think you get a huge edge if you're a beginning player playing on Yahoo, as long as you're keeping up to date with the news. So I recommend it. And these prize pools keep growing and growing. So I think that's going to be pretty sweet as the season goes on. Next game, we got Detroit at Indiana. I think this is kind of a situation like we talked about earlier where the prices have started to adjust, especially on Detroit's side where Tim Frazier and Derrick Rose are out. Blake Griffin, of course, out. So Andre has been killing it. Bruce Brown and Kennard have been seeing some decent performances. What's your starting spot on this team?
Andre Drummond still. It's a matchup we've already seen him. This is the third time that these teams have played. And for one, it just is a really good matchup for him because even if Miles Turner plays for Indiana, it's going to be undersized centers trying to defend him. Two guys that are giving up a lot of weight to him, and it just is a great rebounding spot. Great spot for him to get putbacks. But then on top of that, this is the third game now that he's played without Rose, Frazier, or Griffin, assuming that Frazier, who's doubtful, does miss this game. Over those 3 games, he has a 26.5% usage rate, 22.7% assist percentage, which is a nice bump. And we're seeing him take on more of a playmaking role in addition to his monster rebound numbers. Plays, again, 36 plus minutes a night in competitive games. And so the only real downside is that he is more expensive than Karl Anthony Towns, who I think is obviously one of the best plays on the slate. But everyone knows that, and it's not like Drummond can't beat Towns. We saw this basically same exact thing the last time they played on Wednesday. So from a tournament standpoint, I think it's a viable pivot because he does have that same ceiling that Towns has. Even though he may hit it a little bit less frequently, he's also going to be much lower on.
Yeah, I mean, Drummond's been killing it this year, averaging 36 minutes. That's pretty hard to imagine over a whole season with how much he fouls, but I mean, he does everything as well as Towns, except for the scoring, where Towns is much better. He's even getting a lot of assists recently, especially with Rose and Frazier out. So he's been close to 20% assist percentage the past few games. Last season, he only had 7% over the whole season. So as far as Kennard or Brown, do you have any preference there?
Yeah, Kennard actually stands out a little bit more for me. He has a 25% usage rate over these games without Rose or Frazier out there. And the assist percentage is up at 24.6%. He's playing 34 to 36 minutes. I think that he's not he's not at a great price point, given that Detroit only has a 102 team total. Indiana plays slow; they're a decent team defensively, but I do think that the opportunities at least will be there for him.
Yeah, I think that the usage has been way up, especially over the past few games. Over the past few, he's been at 25 with the point guards out, so that's pretty appealing. On Indiana's side, we have Miles Turner questionable, and if he plays, then I guess Jeremy Lamb is the big injury. Last game, Aaron Holiday started. He played 30 minutes, I believe. He was kind of the chalk play that busted last slate. Are you willing to go back to the well there?
No, his salary jumped basically 25%. He's up to 4,200 on DraftKings. He played 30 minutes, which was nice, but you have to account for the fact that he's playing with guys like Malcolm Brogdon. So whereas if you're just trusting rates that Aaron Holiday has put up over the years, he's a decent usage guy and a decent assist guy, but you obviously have to have the ball in your hands to do that. And if you're not playing off the bench and you are playing alongside someone like Brogdon, those numbers are going to go down. You got 21 or 22 DraftKings points from him last game, which at 3,100 was, not great, but it was perfectly fine. Now, obviously, that wouldn't work at all at his salary. And there's just so many not good value plays at the bottom end, but just good plays in general on the slate that I don't really see myself getting the Holiday.
Yeah, I agree. I think the price jump, it was really a 3K flyer. And if he plays 30 minutes again, he could be decent. But it's hard to project that because he's not someone that is a key part of the rotation usually. But Malcolm Brogdon is standing out to me. His numbers this year have been pretty incredible. Over 40% assist percentage, 26% usage. And he hasn't really seen his price go up too much. He's at the 8Ks between DraftKings and FanDuel. How are you feeling about Brogdon tonight?
Yeah, I like Brogdon again. He's someone that I've liked pretty much all season long because his usage is there, like you said. It's similar to the usage he had last year whenever he played without Bledsoe and Giannis, which obviously makes a big difference. And now there's less mouths to feed on this team. You have Sabonis and possibly Turner, but TJ Warren's a low 20s usage guy. Lamb, when he's healthy, is the same way. He's not even healthy tonight. So less guys demanding the ball, less guys dominating touches. And we've seen a ton of potential assists for Brogdon, a lot of driving to the basket, high usage rate. So I think that he deserves to be popular as long as his price tag's where it is.
Yeah, he's been someone that's been winning us a ton of money so far this year, and the matchup, not super fast paced, but Indiana has a big edge in this game with some of the key pieces out. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So one thing we've been doing recently, you guys are probably familiar with, is unlocking certain features of the site when we get enough likes. So today, man, it's really hard to give up this much information for free. We got our boom bust tool. It's where I calculate the chance of each player making their value or busting and also exceeding their value by 10 points. If we get 700 likes, you'll be able to access this boom bust tool for free for the rest of the evening. So make sure to click the like button here. And it also improves our forecasting ability for these games. I'll have to throw that in there. So the next game, we got Memphis and Orlando. Orlando been pretty much a really tough team for fantasy this year, playing really slow. But Memphis, that's kind of an up-paced team these days. So this might be a good matchup for Orlando. What do you think?
Yeah, really interested in Orlando guys here. I think Nikola Vucevic really on both sites, but especially DraftKings, since you can roster him alongside the other really good centers on this slate, is one of the more mispriced players. He's playing 34 minutes a night in competitive games. He is only 7,800 on DraftKings, 8,400 on FanDuel. He hasn't had a great start to this season. His effective field goal percentage is 4 to 5 percentage points lower than last year, and his usage rate's down a bit, but the usage is starting to come up. We've seen Evan Fournier, the first couple games of the season, was taking a ton of shots, and his usage has started coming down while Vooch is going back up. This is a team that didn't really change a whole lot from last season as far as personnel goes, so I am perfectly fine mostly relying on the numbers that we had from the rates we had from Vooch last year, instead of, just trusting 6 or 7 games, however many they played this year. And last year he had a 28% usage rate. He had 20% rebounding and assist percentages. Memphis is a really, really big pace up spot for Orlando, as you mentioned. So really, really like Vooch. Think he's a priority play for me tonight. And then Evan Fournier, I mentioned his usage coming down. He's really, really tough to trust because he's Evan Fournier and he disappears more often than not. But he's only $4,400 in a pace up spot on DraftKings with guard and forward eligibility. So as much as I hate it, I know I'm going to be getting the Fournier tonight.
Yeah, I really like Evan Fournier tonight, and the reason why is Terrence Ross is out. I think that Terrence Ross is someone who can compete for more minutes than a guy like Wes Iwundu who's replacing him. And the other option for Orlando is either throwing MCW or DJ Augustine in at shooting guard, which isn't the greatest idea. So you think he might pick up a couple more minutes?
Yeah, I think he could, but even if he doesn't, like I have him at 30 minutes here, and he's just so cheap that that's enough for him to be getting in the lineups for me. If he's playing well, I think you could see more minutes. I think that basically the extra minutes are, is he playing well or is he not? And, are they going to run more like Fultz plus Augustine lineups instead?
Yeah, I've been surprised that they've been doing that. Fultz kind of getting a new chance in Orlando. He's actually learned how to shoot decent. His true shot is 53% on the year, starting now for Orlando. Any interest there?
Not a ton, just because even though he's been in the starting lineup, we still haven't really seen the minutes tick up. He's basically still splitting point guard minutes with DJ Augustine, and then they're playing a couple minutes alongside each other. So I have Fultz at 26 minutes tonight. Not someone that's grading out great for me. From this team, including their salaries, I would put him behind Vooch, Fournier, and Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I think that he doesn't stand out as much, and I think maybe the field goal story will draw some people there. On the other side, we got a pretty tough team to pick from with Memphis. Two options that I'm identifying are Jaren Jackson Jr., who's been having foul trouble like every single game. He's cheap on DraftKings. Jonas Valanciunas, 6K on FanDuel. He saw a minutes bump last game. Any interest on the Grizzlies side?
A little bit in Valanciunas. The problem is just how deep the center position is, and obviously the opportunity cost is just through the roof. So it makes it really tough to roster someone who is I haven't projected for 28 minutes. Maybe he gets a bump to like 30. He obviously is a very good fantasy producer, but it's just tough in a huge pace down spot for Memphis for me to sacrifice one of these other centers that I really, really like. As far as Jackson goes, he's someone that's killed me ever since last year, because it's always like you can see that he's supposed to play 30 to 32 minutes if he doesn't foul, but he fouls literally every single game. So I don't really know how to handle it the best way. Luckily, it's not a great matchup for him, so I think I just won't really get there today anyway.
I can see it on DraftKings because he's kind of a high variance player, but yeah, Memphis pretty tough matchup today, so don't love it. Sacramento at Atlanta. Atlanta, obviously, John Collins is out, so we've been seeing Jabari Parker play about 30 minutes. Instead, his price has come up a ton, so he's mid-price now on DraftKings and FanDuel. Price a little bit above my pay grade, I think. But Trae Young has been picking up extra shots. Maybe the ball in his hands more, although it might not be as much as you'd expect because Jabari Parker is a pretty high usage player. Are you interested in Trae tonight?
Yeah, he's the only guy I really like from Atlanta. 35% usage for the season, coming off of an absolutely terrible game his last time out. But he only played 29 minutes in that game. But they had said before the game that he wasn't on any sort of minutes restriction. So I expect him to get back to his normal 34, 35 minutes tonight. He also has an assist percentage this year up over 40%. I have that projected to come down a little bit, but still to be at about 36%, which is really good. So his price tag still favorable. Sacramento has played surprisingly slow this year. They rank 26th in pace. I think that probably comes up, but they've also been very inefficient defensively. They're in the bottom 5 in defensive rating so far. So for someone like Young that is a great scorer and also a great playmaker, there should be plenty of opportunities for him to rack up stats tonight, and he's not really that expensive.
Yeah, I like it. I think that, he's a guy that can go out and get 70, 80 points on a good night, as we've seen. So it's pretty hard to fade him. There's some FOMO there. I'm seeing some value on FanDuel here. DeAndre Bembry, 4K, Cam Reddish, 3,800, Alex Len, 3,900. Am I getting you interested here?
Yeah, I think that those price tags are nice. Yeah, looking at FanDuel, I actually have Bembry. Yeah, I have Bembry and Reddish as pretty decent values.
Yeah, I think maybe take some flyers on that just because there is such aggressive chalk today. So Alex Len is someone who's been really frustrating me because with Collins playing a lot of center minutes, you'd think with Collins out, maybe Len would pick up more minutes, but it hasn't really happened. He's been hovering around 20 a game. Instead, what's happened is Fernando and Jones have gotten more minutes. Any insight into that situation?
I don't really know what to make of it. I hate when Alex Len is in these situations. I thought that we'd be done with it this year because he's normally a good fantasy player when he gets the minutes. And I hate when he's really cheap and you have to like just blindly guess that if he's going to get them or not. But that's basically all I can see. I mean, last game again, we saw, I think it was 12 minutes. He played like 2 minutes in the second half. Fernando played, Damian Jones played. There's probably going to be a game at some point where you just get the 26, 28 minute Alex Len game and you're just like screwed if you don't have him. But I just don't see anything rotation wise that makes me confident that I can predict when that's going to be, or that it's, this week or next week.
Yeah, I think that might be a GBP play, especially on FanDuel, but the opportunity cost of center is usually pretty high. The final guy that I think is worth mentioning is Kevin Huerter. He was hurt at the start of the season. You see what I did there? Anyway, at one point they said his minutes cap was taking off, but he still hasn't been starting. So do you think there's any chance that he cracks the starting lineup sometime? And if he does, would you be interested?
I think he'll keep coming off the bench just because he provides a bench shooter. And in the starting lineup, you have, DeAndre Hunter out there for defensive reasons. You have Cam Reddish, who, obviously was their first round pick this year. So I'm expecting him to keep Porter off the bench, but I still think that you get 26, 27 minutes out of him.
Yeah, I think that unless I'm missing something, that probably won't cut it for his salary. So move on to the next spot here is Sacramento. Atlanta is a pretty fast-paced team, I believe, and Sacramento is projected to score 114 points tonight, which is pretty good for them. We've been seeing Rashawn Holmes get the start, and he's averaged 29 minutes a game over the last 5. Meanwhile, De'Aaron Fox has gotten 35 minutes a game over the last 5 games. And I'm seeing a lot of decent values here. Bogdan Bogdanovic, maybe with Bagley out, has been getting more minutes. Who's your go-to guy on the Kings?
Fox and Holmes. Holmes is so the nice thing about Holmes is that he's a power forward on FanDuel, and then he has power forward center on DraftKings. So you don't have to take up a center spot with him. I have him projected for 31 minutes. We've been seeing 30 to 32 in most games since he joined the starting lineup, excluding the game where Dwayne Dedmon basically was a DNP. Dwayne Dedmon's questionable for this one. If he sits, I think you can give Holmes a few more minutes because it's a situation where he just has a quality backup that they can't be like, hey, you're playing, 8 minutes or 10 minutes a night. But if he's out, they can easily give Holmes, 33, 34 minutes instead. So that's definitely news to keep an eye on. But even at 31 minutes, I think that he's affordable enough, 5,800 on DraftKings, 6,400 on FanDuel, that in a pace-up spot against Atlanta, against a pretty weak defensive front court of Alex Len and Jabari Parker, I think it's a pretty nice spot for Holmes.
Yeah, I think he's a really good producer, and I noticed that he's been averaging 2 blocks a game here. I've kind of noticed this is kind of something I haven't quantified yet, but guys who get a ton of blocks, usually that corresponds to a high foul rate. So do you think that if he's trying to keep out there, maybe he won't get as many blocks?
It's possible, but we haven't. I mean, he's been picking up fouls. It hasn't been really costing him minutes, with the exception of the game against Utah, which was like a brutal spot. In general, yeah. I mean, bigs obviously foul more. I don't really know how to like assess it in a way that makes it something that I want to rely on.
Yeah, just to put it in context, he's averaging 5.9 fouls per 36. So a pretty significant chance he gets in foul trouble if you're going off that number.
That's a first quarter for Jaren Jackson.
That's a good point. Yeah, compared to Jaren Jackson, he looks amazing here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that is. I think the salary is really good for him. but pretty high variance play. I don't believe he's going to be chalky, so I'd give a green light there. Fox, it seems like the Sacramento coach it gives more minutes to whatever unit is playing better. With the exception, maybe Bogdanovich finishes over Bielitsa now. Is that kind of your assessment?
Yeah, and I think Fox is pretty safe. Like you see Hield kind of lose minutes sometimes. You'll see Barnes play 38 minutes one night and then, maybe play like 32. But Fox is pretty much, 34, 35, 37, 36, 36, 20. I think he got hurt that game or something. 34 the game before that. So he's really been kind of immune to the different rotations for Sacramento. So I do feel pretty confident with him. He's got a 28% usage rate this year, 31.8% assist percentage. I have him on DraftKings at 8K and 8,200 on FanDuel. I have him actually as a little bit better play than Holmes, and they're the two guys that I like the most from Sacramento.
Right on. Yeah, I think these are the guys to look at. One other guy I'll throw out, maybe. Dedmon's questionable, but if he plays, maybe he's just seen a price plummet. He's at the minimum on FanDuel, 3,700 at DraftKings. Maybe a late slate play though. I don't know.
Yeah, the center only eligibility makes it really, really tough for me.
I just got a word here that it's a Dwayne Dedmon revenge game as well. Joey's helping me out.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that if you're into the narrative street, like knock yourself out there. Very little chance he misses this game because he's going to surely try his hardest to get the revenge there. Anyway, the next game, I think this is probably one of the most pivotal of the slate. Golden State at Minnesota. D'Angelo Russell is back, so maybe not as much value in Golden State, but Shabazz Napier is a game time decision, upgrade from doubtful earlier. If he plays, then maybe that takes away some assists from Towns and minutes from Culver. My kind of strategy is to play Culver on FanDuel because it's 3,800 and he's a point a minute guy. I'm paced to play about 30 minutes if he starts, so it's worth the risk there for me. But on DraftKings with late swap, I'm kind of locking Culver, I think, and then if Napier plays, then I can late swap and fix my lineup. So how's your approach to this game?
Yeah, same approach here. Last slate was really annoying because I did that with Napier and then Napier got ruled out. So I had to swap him to as much Culver as I could. But now with Culver being the more expensive one, you obviously want to have him in so you can swap down to Napier. But Culver should be probably the most popular play on FanDuel, $3,800 small forward. His salary just didn't adjust. Like if Napier's in, Culver probably plays still upper 20s in minutes. He just won't have the ball in his hands as much. If Napier's out, then he's kind of the de facto point guard along with Andrew Wiggins. Culver last game had the second most potential assists behind Wiggins, and he should play at least 30 minutes again against the worst defense in the NBA. So it's a good spot for Culver if Napier's in. It's a phenomenal spot if he's out.
Yeah, I agree completely. We saw Josh Okogie enter the starting lineup last game for Trevion Graham, and what I interpreted from that was that because Culver was no longer the backup small forward or shooting guard, they needed someone to play 3 shifts. So I had Okogie projected for more minutes, but it didn't materialize. Graham got the minutes, so. Do you see either of those guys as plays?
Yeah, I think Okogie's really interesting because he dealt with foul trouble in that game. Otherwise, I think he would have played more than his 20 minutes. He picked up 1 foul in his first stint, came back and picked up a second foul 25 seconds into his next one and was taken out. So then he closed the first half. And then in the first minute and 52 seconds of the third quarter, he picked up 2 more fouls, went back to the bench, came back in to start the fourth quarter. And then he wasn't with the closing unit, but that obviously is something that's probably going to be game dependent. So I do think that you can take some of Trevion Graham's minutes and give them to Okogie. I have him projected for 30 minutes tonight, which might be a little bit aggressive, but he's not a great point per dollar option. I think that at 4,100 though, and virtually no ownership, he's a value guy that I'm willing to take a chance on because he does provide you defensive stats. He can do a little bit of everything. He can rebound. So if he does stay out of foul trouble and get the 30 minutes that I'm expecting, I think that he can pay off his salary.
Yeah, I think that could be a sneaky play because it's much lower ownership when you get these guys before they have the big game. So, of course, I mean, pretty much anyone on this team is in play aside from maybe Jordan McLaughlin and Noah Vonleh. Robert Covington, someone who's been really frustrating this season. He's only averaged 25 minutes a game, in part due to fouls. Do you think that's just kind of some bad luck, or is it going to be like that for the whole season?
I think it's been a combination of bad luck and having a quality backup in Jake Layman that is going to play minutes because they want his shooting out there. I think that Covington plays 28 to 30 minutes in most games that aren't blowouts and aren't foul trouble, though. And with his price tag coming down and in this matchup, I think that makes him reasonable. But as far as prioritizing guys, even just from this team, it's tough for me to put. I can't put Covington obviously ahead of Towns or Culver. I think I would even prefer Okogie at the salary discount. I think that Covington's pretty comparable to Wiggins for me.
Yeah. So Wiggins on FanDuel 7,100. I project him to be a pretty good value there. But of course, the crown jewel of this team is Karl Anthony Towns. Just incredible numbers on the year. He contributes in every category pretty much. And he's only 10.3K on DraftKings. So it's probably the top value of the slate for me. On FanDuel, 11.5K. Much harder to get to, but is he going to be one of your favorite plays tonight?
Yeah, I don't think there's really any way around it. Playing cash games without him seems like a really bad idea. Obviously, you can have him in tournaments too. Just be contrarian somewhere else in your lineup. The one thing to point out is that there are just so many high upside centers on the slate. You know, guys like Embiid and Drummond and Jokic. You know, as bad as he's looked, and Vooch. You know, all of these guys are capable of beating Towns. Even though Towns projects better than all of them. So if the ownership gets a little too out of control, I'll probably start to just kind of spread it out to these other high upside guys at lower ownership. But as far as projection goes, he's my number one guy.
Yeah, I agree completely. One interesting thing to note is on Yahoo, Karl Anthony Towns is 53. That takes up more than a quarter of your whole salary cap, so that's pretty interesting. But Jarrett Culver is the min price, so on Yahoo, I'd be pretty interested in him as well. On Golden State, I was mentioning that Russell is going to take a lot of the value away from these guys, but saw Alec Burks go out and have a big game last game. Damian Lee has been kind of a value guy. I'm expecting Kai Bowman to go back to the bench, so I'm not really on him. But are you seeing any plays on this team at all?
Russell's the only one that I'm interested in. Haven't seen word of a minutes restriction yet, and assuming that he's not on one, you know, he has in a small sample size, but a 34% usage rate, 36% assist percentage without Steph on the floor. Really good matchup against the fastest team in the NBA so far in Minnesota. So I really like him, but it's a case where everyone else, I think, kind of just plays, you know, upper 20s, low 30s in minutes, and their salaries have come up as a result of their roles without Russell. So, you know, like even the front court guys like Eric Pascal, he's not going to have the ball in his hands as much. You're not going to see that 23, 24% usage that you were when Russell wasn't out there. Kai Bowman has, in the game that they played together, was basically his direct backup. Even if he plays some minutes alongside of him, it's hard to see him getting a bunch of minutes. Burks, I have at 26, Poole at 30. There's just no one outside of D'Angelo Russell that I'm particularly interested in at their salaries now.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, these guys, it's kind of a team full of guys who aren't that great at fantasy, and you put them all together with competing for minutes, so that makes it really tough. Going back to Indiana, we just got word that Miles Turner is out. Goga Bitadze, of course, is also out, so I'm expecting. They actually released the starting lineup too. It's the same one as before with Aaron Holiday at shooting guard, Sampson at power forward, Sabonis at center. How are you expecting it to be different from last game now that Goga is out of the rotation?
So I'm expecting Sabonis to just play all of his minutes at the 5, which is really nice for him. It gives him better rebounding numbers and, you know, easier shots. I think that TJ Leaf will back him up at center. Jakar Sampson, I think if he stays out of foul trouble, should get decent run at the 4. I think that you're going to get McDermott up around 30 minutes again. And then you'll see, you know, Justin Holiday backing up Aaron Holiday as well.
Nice. So I'm finding Jakar Sampson. I got burned by him a couple slates ago, and then I missed him on his good game last game. But Elise Johnson entered the rotation last game, backing up Sampson. So do you think Sampson is a play here?
I don't really like him at 4,200 on DraftKings. If he's cheaper on FanDuel, I think it's interesting. Um, it's just like he probably won't really have a role offensively. He's 3,800 on FanDuel. Like he's out there to rebound and pick up defensive stats and stuff. So I don't like him that much. It is 4,200, but 3,800 on FanDuel is okay.
Yeah, that could be an extreme punt on FanDuel.
TJ McConnell's kind of interesting to me now. At 3,200 on DraftKings, he hasn't played a lot of minutes alongside Malcolm Brogdon, but they just have to find guys to play minutes. Like he's capable of playing alongside Brogdon. And if McConnell were to play, I don't know, 20 or 22 minutes instead of 16, like he's productive enough. I think he could be a really good low owned value.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like last game, we saw Aaron Holiday pick up all the extra minutes, but McConnell, if he's playing well, could be that guy this time.
Yeah. Just thinking that with Goga out, like you could potentially have Justin Holiday eating up more minutes at the 3, in addition to backing up Aaron Holiday, and so maybe like TJ McConnell could just pick up another handful of minutes.
I like it. So as I mentioned earlier, we need to get some likes here. My initial ask was productive. We got 300 likes here, but we're not close to that 700 that we need to unlock the boom bust tool, where I give out the probabilities of hitting value and hitting value plus 10. So I gotta break out some bullying tactics here. That's my go-to method for extracting these likes. Yeah. So if you don't click the like button, you're never gonna have love again in your life. I gotta bring back my classic line there. All right, next game, Toronto at New Orleans. Yeah, thanks guys for the likes. So we got. I mean, this is a great matchup for Toronto, but they're only favored by 3. So New Orleans not that bad this year, I take it. Anyway, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, Siakam, they've all been playing big minutes, and it's a good matchup. So how are you approaching these guys?
Yeah, nice pace up spot for Toronto against a really bad defense as well. And for the most part this season, they've run a really tight rotation. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, all playing big minutes. OG Anunoby as well, but his salary's come up and he's not really that productive on the offensive end. But you have Lowry playing like 38 plus minutes in competitive games. You have VanVleet playing normally 35, 36, and the same goes for Siakam. None of their salaries have really moved all that much. I think that when you look at the guards priced around Lowry, I prefer guys like Beal and Brogdon and Trae Young, but it's still a good matchup for Kyle Lowry. I still have him, up over 40 fantasy points here. So if he's not going to be that popular, I like getting there. Siakam's my favorite guy from Toronto, though. Has the highest usage rate on the team at 30.2%. He picks up some assists, picks up some rebounds. He's just really not that expensive. He's only 8,800 on DraftKings. He's a small forward on FanDuel, which makes him even more valuable. So I think that he's a particularly good play.
I like it. Yeah, he's really upped his game this year so far. One guy that's standing out is Marc Gasol on FanDuel at 5,100. Pretty much the lowest price we got him, but his season so far has been filled with disappointment. So Serge Ibaka is a willing backup or capable backup. New Orleans, they're starting Jahlil Okafor most likely, which seems like it could be a good matchup for Gasol. Do you have any interest there?
Not a whole lot on this slate. It is a good matchup. It's just that we haven't seen Ibaka playing a lot of minutes alongside Gasol, and we know Ibaka more times than not is going to play north of 20 minutes at least. And so it kind of caps Gasol. We did see a game recently that Gasol played 34 minutes. He played, I think, 25 in the first 3 quarters last game, but then never came back in and Ibaka closed. So there is still some chance he gets 30 plus minutes, in which case he would be a good play. It's just that with all the centers on this slate, and then also the question marks of how productive Marc Gasol even is on a permanent basis anyway, it's tough for me to get there at the expense of other guys.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's a good value on FanDuel, but the opportunity cost where you get one center, that's pretty hard. On the other side, we got a pretty healthy team. Favors, he came back last game and played 10 minutes about off the bench. There's a possibility he starts over Okafor, but Okafor, he's just standing out to me with this 3,600 price tag on DraftKings. So how are you handling him on there?
Yeah, it's a pretty favorable price tag. Another guy that only has center eligibility. Derek Favors did say that he's feeling much better going into this game than he was last game. So even if he doesn't start, I'm expecting him to at least pick up like 18, 20 minutes off the bench. So I have Okafor at 20 minutes right now. It's not a projection I'm super confident in. Like if he got a little bit more, I wouldn't be shocked. But it's tough for me to really go higher than that, knowing that Favors is supposed to be back. That Jackson Hayes has been picking up at least a few minutes off the bench as well. Yeah, so he's an okay value, but not someone that I'm getting tons of.
Yeah, I agree. The guy that's standing out to me the most, other than that, Brandon Ingram. He's been having a huge year so far for New Orleans. 27% usage compared to 23% last year. 22% assist percentage compared to 13% last year. Higher rebounding as well, and he's averaging 32 minutes a game. Do you see yourself landing on him at all?
Yeah, he projects as the best guy from New Orleans for me. I do expect him to regress a bit going forward. He's just shooting better from three than I think he's capable of over the long term. But that being said, he's still playing big minutes. He's still reasonably priced, and he does have a near 28% usage rate this year. So not a great matchup, but he picks up some assists, picks up some boards, and has the highest usage rate on the team. So if I'm going to anyone from New Orleans, Ingram's the first guy that I would go to.
Nice. Yeah, I think that he could be sneaky on tonight's slate. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Josh Hart. Somehow he has been averaging 30 minutes a game. His price has gone up there, up to the mid 5Ks. So, is there any chance he'd land on him?
Not really. It's just really tough for someone like him to actually exceed that salary. Like if he plays 30 minutes, he obviously can get you, 5x or whatever people like to call value. But, you still to win a tournament, you just need so many points from all the positions. And it's really, really tough for Josh Hart to go out there and get you like 40 plus because he's just not a high usage guy. He's more of a hustle guy that, gets some layups, gets some boards, is productive in a real life sense. But without guys being injured, it's really tough for him to be a great DFS play.
Yeah, I agree. It's someone that is frustrating being on the other end of it, where he's gone out and won people a bunch of money this year so far. The next game, got the Knicks at Dallas. Dallas, of course, much better team. They're favored by 11. Pretty low over under these days, 215. So on New York, we got Dennis Smith Jr. out, Alfred Payton out. So Frank Ntilikina has been starting. Also, Mitchell Robinson is out with a concussion. So last game, Taj Gibson started the second half, but it could very well be Bobby Portis today. I'll start there. Who do you think will start this game at center?
So the only real information that we've gotten so far. So yesterday, Fizdale said that Randall could start at center, and then it wasn't necessarily going to be Portis. Today, Marcus Morris announced that he was starting at the 3, which suggests that Randall's not starting at center. So that kind of narrows it down to either Gibson or Portis, unless that changes. Like you said, Gibson started the second half. I don't think it makes a big difference which one starts. Like if Gibson starts, I still think Portis plays more minutes, and if Portis starts, I still think Gibson gets minutes. One big takeaway from that second half last game was that Portis and Gibson actually played alongside each other. I think that is interesting because it opens the door for Gibson to be a decent value. Like if he were only backing up Portis, it would be tough for me to give Portis or to give Gibson more than like 18 minutes, but I think that you can give him into the low 20s since we saw them play alongside each other. Still not a great play, but at 3,200, there's at least like a path there if he's going to get 24 minutes.
Yeah, good to see that. He was popping on my projections, but then I noticed his usage this year is way down. He only had 13%. I mean, that's not surprising for him, but pretty good value there if he starts. We also have Randall, who maybe picks up more rebounds with Mitchell Robinson out. He's been having a rougher year, less than 50% true shooting percentage. That's down from 60% last year. This year, he has 23% usage, down from 27%. So maybe this new team isn't working out that well for him. How are you feeling about Randall?
I kind of like his rates across the board though, because even though the usage isn't as high as I anticipated it, 22.1% assist percentage, 14% rebounding percentage. So he's still doing everything, and his price tag's just falling because he's had a few bad games. So not a priority for me tonight, but I do think he's a guy that I'll probably just kind of be overweight on in tournaments until his price tag comes back up, just because I think he's better than his current salary, and he has still a really big role in this offense.
I like it. Um, Pretty much the salaries are pretty nice here across the board, especially Portis on FanDuel, but RJ Barrett maybe he's pretty expensive, but been playing huge minutes so far, almost 37 a game. What do you take a stab on him?
Probably not going to get there too much. He does lead the team in usage, but and has a decent 18% assist percentage, but his salary I think is pretty much where it should be. It also should just be a really slow paced game between two of the slower teams in the league. Only a 102 total for New York, so not expecting to get a whole lot from the Knicks, and not much Barrett.
All right, guys, we got some breaking news. Derek Jones Jr. is out for Miami. We haven't gotten to the game yet, but if you had Derek Jones Jr. in your lineup, you should probably withdraw from all your contests first of all.
Yeah.
The alternative would be maybe switch to someone else. Anyway, on Dallas, I mean, this is a great matchup for Dallas versus a really weak team in New York. Guy that's standing out to me. I mean, this might be a huge shock, but it's Luka Doncic. Is he a core player of yours tonight?
Yeah. Even when I was trying to get like cash builds on DraftKings, he kept getting in there, and I was kind of like adjusting and tweaking stuff because I don't think with there being so many underpriced guards, in that 8K range, I don't think from like an optimal cash lineup that he was necessarily the best play. But in tournaments, I love him because he just gives you so much upside. He's a little bit cheaper than those guys like at the top, like Giannis and LeBron, that give you really high ceilings. He's a little bit easier to get to because of the lack of value on this slate. The Knicks haven't played fast this year, but they're not a particularly great team. Mitchell Robinson being out should hurt them defensively as well. And Luka just does so much stuff when he's on the floor. 43% assist percentage this year, 31% usage rate, double-digit rebounding percentage. He's playing monster minutes in competitive games, so there's nothing for me not to like about Luka.
Yeah, especially like his minutes. He's this year averaging almost 36 a game. That's up huge from last year. I'm not seeing a ton on the rest of the team. One guy, Dwight Powell, it's kind of interesting because he doesn't really match up that well with Portis or Randall, probably being kind of a traditional center, but he's been playing bigger minutes recently. Are you interested at all?
Yeah, he played 34 minutes last game. I have him at 32 tonight, just trying to be a little bit, pessimistic with his minutes, but he was a fantasy point per minute guy last year. Even if he's a little bit lower than that this year because of Porzingis being in the front court, I still think that he's really underpriced given his minutes and his role on the team. The Mavs had talked about liking him alongside Porzingis, liking how they fit together as well. So I expect him to be the guy, going forward. The only issue is the opportunity cost, but amongst the cheap centers, if I'm going to one, it's Powell.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit more skeptical of the minutes there, but Maxi Kleber, of course, is a factor where I imagine that he'll play the backup center, and he's been averaging pretty big minutes. But
Yep.
Do you think the Mavs really prefer one guy over the other there that much?
I think they prefer Powell.
Yeah.
Just based on talking about liking him alongside Porzingis, and he's been the guy there when he's healthy. Even last year towards the end of the year, really really athletic. Guy that can kind of match up with anyone. So, I think they give preference to him. They also played a nice chunk of minutes alongside each other last game.
Nice. Yeah, so that could be a spot where maybe the price hasn't adjusted yet. Powell, he was pretty unhealthy to start the season, kind of eased into the rotation. The Dallas rotation, though, always really hard to predict.
Yeah, the guards and wings is a nightmare.
Yeah, so if you're on Seth Curry because he's starting, maybe look somewhere else.
If he's even starting, he was replaced by Barea in the second half last game.
Oh man, yeah, that's right, Barea,
who I did not know was even healthy.
Milwaukee at Utah. This is probably going to be a pretty good game as far as a basketball game, but maybe not as good for DFS. What are your thoughts on this one?
I agree with what you just said. Giannis obviously is one of the highest upside guy on any slate that he's on. He's averaging, I think it's 1.9 points per minute this season. This is a game that should be competitive, so you should see those 35, 36 minutes out of Giannis that can sometimes be hard to get. But the problem is just that there are so many high upside guys at much cheaper price tags, and you have to take on some less than stellar value options to get all the way up to Giannis. So it makes it tough to get there. That should keep his ownership down, but I think there's going to be enough low owned guys on this slate that I will get to before I get to Giannis just because of his salary. So, I think that he's fine. Like if you can get him into a lineup that you like, then by all means. But I just don't expect to get to a whole lot because of his salary. I do think that Eric Bledsoe is an interesting option, though. The minutes are just really inconsistent. You've seen him lose minutes to foul trouble, blowouts, George Hill having good games off the bench. But I think even with a 28-minute projection, the rates for Bledsoe are so good this season that he comes in as a good play for me, and he does at least have minutes upside. Like he's going to play more than 30 minutes at some point this season. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. You can't guess which game that is, but 24% usage, 25% assist percentage, 15% rebounding percentage at a 6K price tag and no ownership. He's someone that I've been overweight on for most of the last week or so.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, anytime where you got a situation where if a guy is playing well, they get more minutes, like we're seeing with Bledsoe, that's big for DFS. Just to give you guys a sneak peek here of the boom bust tool, we are at 639 likes. We need 71 more or 61 more. My math on the website's a lot better than that. I apologize. Anyway, the ceiling projection I have for Giannis on FanDuel is 62 points, so that's the 75th percentile. And if he gets that, you're probably going to need him to win. 24.8% chance on FanDuel of getting value plus 10 or 10% ownership. So we're seeing some of these guys lose a lot of their ownership to Towns, Davis, Drummond. So is Giannis contrarian tonight? That seems a little weird to even say.
Yeah, I think he has to be. He was contrarian on Wednesday too, on kind of a similar slate where you had the really underpriced Towns, you had some other underpriced guys, and then today, you add in LeBron being $1,000 less on DraftKings, Davis being $1,500 less. As weird as it is, and normally I love slates where people aren't playing Giannis because I just play a ton. It just feels like you need like the entire slate to break your direction for Giannis to be like the best play, considering how much more expensive he is than everyone.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to need everything to break your way, of course, but he's definitely not as safe as some other guys like Towns, Drummond, and Doncic, who have my highest chance of being the best values on at that range on FanDuel. On the other side, we got Utah. We've been seeing, Donovan Mitchell's performance this year has been better as far as shooting, but his numbers are down they're not down that much as far as usage and assists, I guess. But I haven't really landed on much this year. Have you been playing much Mitchell?
I haven't been getting to much either. One thing that I did notice, though, and I don't think I'll get to a ton today, but one thing I did notice that I think is good for him going forward. I hadn't noticed it before, so I don't think it was happening. I could be wrong, but he was having his minutes staggered last game with Mike Conley. So you're getting Donovan Mitchell out there running a second unit of Ingles and Jang and Jeff Green. So that should bump his rates quite a bit if that continues going forward. But he's still not a priority for me tonight.
All right, guys, we hit 700 likes, so we're making this boom bust tool free. It's big because like not every player has the same variance in plays. We're all looking for that guy with a high ceiling. And one thing that people have been doing with this boom bust tool, I've been told, is just uploading the boom percentages and optimizing based on those. So that's one way you could utilize those in addition to kind of using them for your analysis. One guy that's kind of standing out to me as far as price, I mean, this is a really deep tournament flyer, but Royce O'Neal. Like, would you ever have him tonight?
I don't think so.
Oh, man. Thought I had something there. All right. But thanks for talking me off the ledge. I'm really not seeing a lot of fantasy value in this game, so we'll move on. We got Philly at Denver. I mean, this has to be the situation of the night, I think, because Raul Neto is projected to be aggressively high owned. and I can actually give you the projection now because that's on our boom bust tool. But last time I checked our ownership, it was at about let me just give the figure now. 30% ownership on DraftKings. I think it might even be higher on FanDuel. But this is a guy who it's a stretch that he'll even start this game. I would think they'd probably run with the same unit. They started the second half with last game with Korkmaz and Simmons' place. What do you think Neto's roles might be?
I think that there's a lot of uncertainty. Like you said, he didn't start the second half after Simmons got hurt. They started Richardson and Korkmaz. Richardson, moving over to point in Simmons' place. So I don't think that Neto has to start here. He certainly could, but I think that it is more likely. My guess is that he comes off the bench. I think that you get, he played 16 minutes in that second half. I think you get something like 28 to 32 minutes out of him, most likely. But there's also a lot of different ways that it can go where he gets less than that, because Josh Richardson is a capable ball handler. So, and Philadelphia has plenty of wings. So there's different, like if you played this game 1,000 times, there are times where Tybal for some reason gets more minutes, or James Ennis gets more minutes, and Josh Richardson, plays more point at the expense of Neto. So I think that there's at least downside risk to his minutes. They're not super secure even with Simmons out. And the way I approach that is that because my median projection is that he plays around 30 minutes and he's really cheap, I'm playing him in cash. I think he's a good, cash play, and I'm not opposed to using him in some tournament lineups. But with him being 30% owned right now, and people going to a guy that I think, one, could just have a bad game because the matchup sucks, or two, could just play less minutes than we're all projecting, I like in tournaments kind of finding ways around him and trying to get to, other value.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that I'm kind of on the fade train, and I'm not even as optimistic about his minutes. I feel like as far as ball handling, they might. I mean, Richardson can certainly dribble the ball up the court. That's not a problem. And they got Richardson, Harris, Horford, and Embiid, all the guys who get like substantial amounts of assists. So I really don't think Neto's skill set is really necessary, except when maybe Richardson's off the floor. And what I think could happen in this game, if Neto gets off to a good start, I mean, he might play as many minutes as we're talking about. But if he's missing some shots, turning the ball over, I mean, there's so many different guys they can go to. This lineup's really fungible. So, like, they could go to Thybulle and run Richardson at point. Korkmaz, of course. They could even give Trey Burke a shift here. He's someone lurking in the bench, and someone that not a great NBA player, but at least NBA talent. Anyway, I'm stepping off the soapbox here. Do you have any interest in Richardson being the de facto point guard here?
Some interest in Richardson. His price tag jumped $1,300 after his last game when he was inexplicably $4,400 on DraftKings. The Philadelphia team today, it's kind of frustrating how low their salaries are, because I do hate the spot against Denver, the slowest team in the league so far, and a decent defense. But you are going to have more ball handling for Josh Richardson, so I think he's at least a decent secondary option. Tobias Harris is underpriced and playing really big minutes, so I think he's a decent option, as is Horford. So nobody that I expect to be like my highest owned guys, but I think I'll have a lot of Philadelphia just kind of sprinkled in the lineups.
Yeah, I think that some of these price tags are appealing. Of course, Embiid, there's a lot of opportunity cost because you're giving up some other guys who are priced better. But Horford and Harris stand out as guys that'll benefit with Simmons out. On the other side, Denver, the most notable thing about this is Jokic's price has fallen across the industry to the lowest I've ever seen it, honestly. 8,500 on DraftKings, 8,500 on FanDuel. So is there any way you're not going to land on him tonight?
The only reason that I won't have tons is because of all the other guys at the position that I like. But and also last I checked, we had him projected for pretty high ownership. Not sure if that. Okay, so now he's down to like 10% on DraftKings. That makes it a lot more appealing. When I looked earlier, he was like the 5th highest projected guy on the slate, and he's another guy where I just kind of have no idea how to project him right now. I think that the best approach is to be weighting his previous rates, like from last year, much heavier than this year. It's essentially the same Denver team. I would be shocked if by the end of the year this isn't just like a blip on the radar and we're kind of laughing at that time that Jokic was $8,500. But at the same time, he has not been. He's been in foul trouble constantly. He hasn't been that aggressive offensively. So I have him as a really good play at his price tag. And if his ownership's going to be low, then I'm most likely going to end up overweight.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the category where he's hurting the most is true shot percentage, and unless he just got worse at basketball, this is possible, but usually not what you see. I think he's a good play, but maybe not as good as Towns or some other options.
Right.
We got Harris, who's probable, Barton back in the rotation, Murray, Millsap completing the starting lineup. These guys really don't stand out to me in any way, but are you taking any shots on those?
Yeah, I'll take some shots just because they're cheap. Gary Harris, 4,400, Millsap, 4,900. I think that, Millsap, this is a spot where I would expect Millsap, if he can, stay out of foul trouble and not get his face split open like he did last game, to play around 28 minutes. It's a bigger Philadelphia front court with Embiid and Horford. And Millsap is productive when he's on the floor. It's a pace-up spot. So I think that he's a decent option, not someone I'm like hammering into a ton of lineups though.
Yeah, I think Millsap's a nice play because in general, because he's competing with Grant for the minutes, whoever's having the better game probably gets more minutes, and that's a nice variance there. So I got to mention, we got this promo code Deeper Dive where you get 50% off your first month or week of the Awesome membership. And we really upped our game this season. We got so many great features. We got the Deep Dive written by Adam and written by Laffy. We have the new live blog where you can get written analysis. These tools are going to be really essential on days where you don't have time to listen to a full-length video. And you just want to dig down into the most important spots on the slate. In addition, we got the Boom Bust tool, which you can check out, the projections, the ownership. These are all the tools I use to maintain my top rankings on a yearly basis. So well worth the price, especially you can give it a try for half off. So Deeper Dive for that. Brooklyn at Portland. I'm seeing a nice play here. We got DeAndre Jordan out, Jared Allen. He's going to be facing Hassan Whiteside, so they're going to need someone with his size out there. He could get fouls. Backing him up, we got Nicholas Claxton and Henry Ellenson, guys who haven't even played a minute this year so far. But is there any way to get away from Jared Allen?
No, pretty tough, especially because like Rashawn Holmes, he has power forward eligibility. So it's not even like you have to have that opportunity cost argument. He's played 30 minutes recently in games that he started. And now without DeAndre Jordan backing him up, you should see, I think, 32 plus minutes. He's not been as productive this year. His usage has been down, which isn't really surprising, when you factor in Kyrie, but he did have D'Angelo Russell last year. So I think you could still see that come up a bit as the season goes on. And I don't see any reason why his rebounding wouldn't come up with, over a bigger sample either. So I think he's obviously just one of the top values on this slate.
Nice. I think that's a safe one that you can lock in as a core piece. Kyrie Irving, Karis LeVert. These guys are pretty good fantasy producers, but the price tags are pretty much at the level where I think they should be. Of course, Portland, not the greatest matchup in the world, but the Nets are projected for 117 points. So as far as the complementary pieces here, what are you looking at?
Kyrie is expensive. It's tough when he's almost the same price as Doncic, but still a pretty decent spot for him. Karis LeVert probably won't get much ownership. He almost never does. Has a 26% usage rate this year, and in a competitive game should play around 34 minutes. So they're the guys in addition to Allen that I think will be getting into my lineups.
Nice. Yeah, I think these guys are going to be pretty contrarian because there are so many great plays that merely good plays maybe not land as many rosters. And on this other side, I'm seeing it's lighting up my charts for value. Portland versus Brooklyn, projected for 121 points. Super fast game, I think. And there's so many good fantasy options here with Lillard, McCollum, Whiteside, and then you got some values too. So where are you starting with Portland?
I think with Whiteside, who's still really cheap, played 28 minutes last night. So that's 2 straight games we've gotten 28 minutes out of him. He's averaged 26 for the season. Obviously, it would be nice if he played more, but he really doesn't need to with the salary. He's got a 22% usage rate for the season, 23% rebounding percentage. He is he's always been a great per minute producer. And right now the salary is weighted much more towards his median projection or even kind of his like 25th percentile than his ceiling projections. So I think that he's once again a really good play tonight, one of the better center options. And then you get to Lillard and McCollum, who, both are pretty cheap. Lillard, for example, is $700 less on DraftKings than Irving on the other side of this game. He doesn't have the massive usage rate this season that Irving does, but in any individual game, he certainly can. Like, we see him take over fourth quarters all the time. So, and he's averaging about 38 minutes per game this year. So I think that him and McCollum are both really good plays as well. And then one other thing I would point out is that because value is there's such little like really, really cheap value on this slate, I am interested in Scal as the direct backup to Whiteside. For one, I have him projected for 20 minutes, and he's a pretty good fantasy producer on a per minute basis. But two, Whiteside should have a lot of ownership. And if Whiteside gets in foul trouble or just plays poorly or something, the immediate beneficiary is Scal. So not only would you be getting a low owned value play, getting extra minutes, but it would be directly at the expense of a guy that a large percentage of the field has.
Yeah, I like that. I think that Scott, anytime you got a guy who's the backup to a foul prone dude, that's someone that could go off. And we saw that with Mason Plumlee the other night. So it's worth taking some stabs on these guys. A couple of really good value plays on this team as well, with Rodney Hood getting 30 minutes a game. Kent Bazemore, he's been having minutes off the bench, but if he's playing well, I think maybe he gets some minutes. So are you taking any stabs there?
Sorry, I missed the question. I was reading something.
Hood and Bazemore.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I've Hood at 32 minutes. I have Bazemore at 24. I'll take some shots on Hood again just because he's really, really cheap. We saw last night exactly what happens more often than not with Rodney Hood. Played 32 minutes, scored, I think, 15 DraftKings points. But he's so cheap that there's, just not really a whole lot of downside risk there. Bazemore, same thing, except for fewer minutes than Hood most likely.
Yeah, I think if you need some value, and certainly on the night slate, these guys will be in play. On the last game here, make sure to click the like button so that this love forecast doesn't come true for you, not getting any love in the rest of your life. So we got some news. we got some news. Derek Jones is out for Miami. Justice Winslow is still out. Deion Waiters is out. But it's a tough matchup versus the Lakers, where they're only projected for 104 points. So maybe Butler could be in play at 7,400 on DraftKings, but not a cool play of mine. What are you making of this?
Yeah, it's pretty much Butler and Bam for me. And neither one, I think. I mean, Butler is okay. 7,400 is really cheap. It's just different than last night because obviously he can still smash that price tag, but there's just so many other guys that can on this slate too. So he goes from being like a guy that that was my second highest owned player last night to being someone that I'll have plenty of tonight, but not in my top 3 or 4 highest owned guys. Bam is only center eligible, which is really unfortunate. It's correct, but it sucks from a DFS standpoint. So it makes it really tough to prioritize him over guys like Whiteside and Vooch, kind of bookending him in terms of salary.
Yeah, I think that he could be a nice play on the late slate maybe, but pretty hard to get to as far as salary and the other options. But the last game we saw Goran Dragic kind of coming off the bench and get a big performance. He's 5.2K and 5.3K on DraftKings and FanDuel. Is he on your radar at all?
Not really on this slate. Played 31 minutes last night. I'm expecting him to play 26 to 28 minutes most nights. He could not miss in the fourth quarter last night. I think he had like 18 points or something. So he picked up a few additional minutes, but tonight it just kind of seems like an unnecessary risk.
Yeah. Tough matchup, and the prices aren't that appealing. But the last guy I think I might have a little bit of is Kendrick Nunn. I think that with Justice Winslow out, his minutes should be secure, especially if he's having a good game. Would you land on him at all?
Not really. Like I think the minutes should be there. We didn't see it last night, which was really weird. But I think projecting him for 30 minutes is probably the best approach. It's just that it's a pace down spot for Miami. I don't think it's that appealing of a game, and he still has to share the ball with Jimmy Butler. He's still subject to losing minutes to Tyler Hero if Tyler Hero gets hot. And then you still have Dragic, that can get hot behind him too. He's been for the most part really scoring dependent this year. So when Miami's fully healthy, I don't like him all that much. Or almost fully healthy.
Yeah, same. I think that this might be the last chance as long as Winslow is coming back off his concussion. Lakers, I mean, they're projected for 112 points, so nothing that's going to break the slate or something. But I think Avery Bradley is questionable. If he's out, we might see a KCP start. LeBron and Anthony Davis are both expensive, so they're not really top options for me. But how are you feeling about LeBron and Anthony Davis?
Pretty much the same way. I'm really happy with whatever I get to. I think Davis in particular is an interesting tournament play coming off of that absolutely awful game against Chicago. Naturally, on a slate with this many options, you're just going to see lower ownership there. So, at 10-1, on DraftKings, that's obviously a really, really favorable price tag for him. LeBron's a little bit more expensive, but I'd have LeBron projected a little bit better also. 51% assist percentage this season for LeBron is absolutely insane. We've seen him, just taking over games lately. So I like both guys, but it just comes down to is my lineup better with them or by saving, $1,000 to one of the 9 to 10K guys with a massive ceiling and getting a better value guy in there.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're at a big disadvantage to people with Luka and Towns, assuming that you're forgoing those guys in favor of James and Davis. So not the highest value plays of the day. Kuzma, maybe he's supposed to have a 26-minute limit. If he plays that, maybe a FanDuel play. But do you have any other plays from this game?
I do not.
All right, so we got a couple more minutes. Thanks everyone for watching here. Final question. So, of course, injury news is the key to NBA success. So what are the situations you're monitoring here up to lock?
Still paying attention for Dwayne Dedmon news because I think that affects Holmes' minutes a little bit, or at least potentially gives him a little bit more minutes upside. Other than that, I think we have all the news now.
Well, the one I'm really looking at is this Minnesota news, Shabazz and Napier. So if Shabazz Napier somehow starts this game, I mean, he's only 4,200 on DraftKings at 4K, more than 1 point minute guy. So I suppose he comes from doubtful and he not game time decision and he's starting. Like, what do you think he'd be like a full go or like would they force him back?
I can't imagine he plays if he's not full strength. It was a hamstring injury, which is something that tends to linger, or at least can be re-aggravated really easily. Shabazz Napier is like a good player and a key part of their team. I can't imagine that they're trying to force him in to play against Golden State as double-digit home favorites.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good analysis. They're 82 games, so they're not going to rush anyone back if Napier starts. I think the best approach here is to on FanDuel play Culver. If Napier's out or in, it kind of stinks, but at least this guy's still 3,800, so not a huge loss. But if Napier's out, he's an amazing play. On DraftKings, we have a late swap, so cancel your evening plans. You're going to be by the computer tonight playing NBA DFS. But thanks everyone for watching. We got Chris Spags and Josh Engelman bringing us to lock. And good luck everyone tonight.
What's up, guys? We should be starting out now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the awesemo.com live before lock show. Got ourselves an 11-game main slate here, one of the big ones for you. We're going to be taking you through all the finer points, all the chalk plays, all the guys that we're playing and the guys we're avoiding. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always on Fridays by my buddy, the Chubster, Josh Engelman. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm feeling pretty good. This has been a good day. I've been busy. Put in a little extra time in the late afternoon to get prepped for this slate. I'm feeling good. The Miles Turner news didn't really help me out at all. I thought that was going to be like my big differentiator today, but oh well, we'll go a different direction.
The good news is you get all that Jakar Sampson now that I'm playing.
I don't think that I'm going to have all that Jakar Sampson today.
He's one of the guys I'm buying into a little bit more. I might be biased because of him going nuts for Chicago last year where they had nobody at all and he just kept putting up 40-point days. But I like the way he looked without Jeremy Lamb in there. But we'll talk about it because that's one of my guys who I think is a little sneaky today. Obviously not going to be owned because he's Jakar Sampson, but still going to be getting those minutes with nobody else in that rotation right now. Oh boy, YouTube chat already being a delight. You're out. Yes, you are out. Not today, my friends. Keep some positive energy in there. Hit that like button. Of course, this show is always presented by Fantasy Draft. So right now, head over to fantasydraft.com right now and use the promo code AWESEMO for your free 7-day trial on there. And welcome to the world of rake-free DFS. Hooters main event, always popping off one of the bigger tournaments on there, the biggest rake-free NFL DFS tournament out there. So go to fantasydraft.com right now and use the promo code AWESEMO. Josh, I know you're always playing on Fantasy Draft, so tell the folks out there why they should be checking it out right now.
Why would you want to pay exorbitant amounts of rake when you don't have to? Massive savings by moving to Fantasy Draft. And anytime that you could just get money back, it's like paying interest. You just don't really have to do it as much at Fantasy Draft. Anytime that you could not have to pay interest, or in this case, rake, you should go about your business that way. If you can calculate out exactly how much you're saving, it is going to be a savings. Who doesn't want to save money?
Yeah, I mean, look, DFS sites, we play on all of them. We enjoy so many of them out there, but ultimately for your bankroll, you should be trying to save money on rake wherever you can. So go to fantasydraft.com right now. Use that promo code AWESEMO to get into the world of rake-free DFS. And of course, all of our data is available at your fingertips, including the Boom Bust tool, which is now free today. But all the other data is going to be behind the paywall. If you want to get half off your first month of Awesemo Plus, go right now to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code live before lock for half off your first month. We also have weekly passes there with all the grades, the rankings for ownership projections and player projections on there. Those packages are as low as $3.95 a week. Let's go to awesemo.com/join and check them all out right now. All right, we got one big chalk play that we should hit on up front because there's really not a ton of value here, or at least not a lot of great value at that near minimum price like we've gotten accustomed to here. We've had so many guys this week going off. Bruce Brown at the beginning of the week, in particular, one of the better examples of it, but a lot of these guys smashing lately. Raul Neto, going to be filling in for Ben Simmons. Played, we don't know if he'll be starting or not yet, but that may not matter for him. Did play 30 minutes in that last game, had a decent showing in a revenge spot, of course, against Utah, the most important revenge spot. But he is going to be one of the top owned plays today industry-wide. So I'm with this play. I think Alex and Adam on the deeper dive pointed out some reasons not to go there. I do think Neto's going to get the minutes. I feel like they do seem like they want to get him run. It seemed like they wanted to get him going in that spot versus Utah. I think it's not a great situation versus Denver, but I also just need value. So I'm going to Neto with the field. Where are you shaking out on old Raulzinho Neto?
I think he looks fine on DraftKings at 3,400. I understand why he's getting owned. I'd probably rather have Rodney Hood. I'd probably rather have Scal. But I think Neto's reasonable. On FanDuel, he's my second favorite pay down option. I'd rather have Aaron Holiday personally. I think that's a little bit safer. But I'm happy to get him. I don't think that he's in any particular smash spot at this point.
Yeah, he's not a smash spot for sure. And I think on this particular slate, I don't think I need him to have a smash spot because There's so many guys like, and I was writing up my column to Switch and Hedge this morning and did the four corners and all that stuff and going through the content cycle. It's like, I literally didn't even know who to feature because there are so many guys who I think are in killer situations in that 6K range and up. And I mean, we're talking all the way up to guys like Towns, like Drummond, who I really don't have a lot of today, but I probably should. Like, I just think you have to be able to get to these guys. And I don't know that there's enough guys in the 4K range. Like, I don't want to play Rodney Hood again. I just don't want to do it. I want to play him. I want to play Bazemore. I'm playing some Darius Garland. I am playing some of those guys, but Neto at least represents hope to me. So that's what I'm banking on today, going home with hope. But I just think you got to get these guys in somewhere. But if you're not going to Neto, who are the value plays you're getting the most of?
Yeah, so I'm going to, like I said, I like Scal, Rodney Hood on DK, Dwight Powell on DK, Fournier on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's going to be Aaron Holiday, Neto, Fournier as well. Let's see, Culver, Josh Okogie, Jared Allen, but that's 5,200, but still. Scal a little bit less so on FanDuel. Bobby Portis. That's the run of value across DK and FanDuel for me right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's it. And there are cheap guys. If you're right, there are guys like, I do like Culver, assuming that we're not going to be getting Shabazz Napier, which we probably won't know during the show, but we'll try to keep up on that as best we can. But seems unlikely given the timing of that game that we'll know for sure. But Culver, I think, is I agree, like a cheaper play, but it's still not really opening up a lot of these guys. Like if you're trying to get, like, let's say Towns and Doncic, I know Alex and Adam were both very big on Doncic. Yeah. You got to get a little bit cheaper than that. And I feel like that's what Neto gives you. But I agree on the Scal take, though, given the ownership for Whiteside, the fact that he's just looked as steady as can be. Those are the times when Hassan Whiteside really Whitesides you up, and that makes Scal more valuable.
That one's really scaring me, if I'm being honest. I like Whiteside a lot, particularly on FanDuel, 7,800. I mean, I guess both sites, he's probably like my favorite play on DraftKings at 6,500, but that could go south in a hurry. And if it does, Scal almost becomes a necessity.
People in the chat also talking about Culver, and actually, so I didn't get a chance to watch the strategy show because I basically on Fridays I'm just doing content from the second I wake up, so didn't get to indulge in the genius that you guys bring there every day. But I saw you tweeting about your Jarrett Culver take, and apparently you're playing him now, but it seemed like you were not so bullish on him this morning. So what has changed for you on your viewpoints of Jarrett Culver?
I went through everything. I updated all of my rates. I took a look at it. He's my favorite small forward value play. I ran a crunch, and we have him projected for like 50% ownership. I got like 25. So I don't really know what that means with regards to my take earlier today. I guess I'm still down on him, but I'm also playing him. Is that helpful for anyone? Probably not.
I like that he got assists in that game. And obviously, he was sort of the nominal point guard, so you would expect him to get some. But, we talked about that a little bit earlier in the week again with Bruce Brown. I don't want to make this a Bruce Brown show, even though he's a fine play again. And Alex still seemed very bullish on him. The assist rate was there for me. He had 7 assists in that game. I think he was involved enough. Like, he's not going to be getting the Wiggins. Like, Wiggins, a guy I feel like people are sleeping on. That guy went nuts in that game. And he's been a really good permanent player without Teague out there, just getting to soak up that usage. But I think Culver is just a good assist guy. Like, as long as Shabazz isn't in there, I think Culver is a viable point guard play at 5K. And I don't think he's trash. I don't think he's trash at all. I think, especially in this spot going against Golden State.
Look, here's the deal. There is a difference between what someone should be and what they will be, or what they are and what they will be. I think that Jared Culver is an excellent basketball prospect. He is in line to get playing time today, which is the actual benefit to his salary.
Sure.
He is not a talented basketball player as an NBA player as a rookie. That's just not a thing that usually happens. He'll essentially be close to replacement level. That shouldn't be terribly shocking. He wasn't a particularly good shooter in college. Some of the comps coming out were not the best, but I understand why he's projectable. It doesn't mean that he has to be good now.
No, look, I don't think he's going to be a great player. And I think in particular, like, this spot is really the one where I don't think you have to be good. I mean, we talked about D'Angelo Russell and his defense. He's actually going to probably be an improvement about over what they had out there over the last few games. So I just think it's a nice spot for Culver. The pace is going to be really good. Golden State's defensive efficiency, one of the worst in the league, does about 116, which means they're giving up 116 points per 100 possessions. So that's a lot for relative to anybody in the NBA. So to me, I think that's why you go to Culver, is that he's going to get some easy assists to Towns and Wiggins. He's going to be able to score a little bit on his own. He had 10 shot attempts in that game. Like, I agree. Like, he's not a great player. He's only shooting. I mean, he does have a case that he's going to possibly regress a bit on his shot, even though he's not a good shooter. He's only shooting 35% from the floor to start the year.
I mean, he shot like 30% from three in college last year. So,
and he's shooting 32 this year. So look at how he's growing.
Yeah. Look, here's the deal. The reasons to play Jarrett Culver have very little to do with his talent.
Okay. I agree. I just think he's worth playing today. And I think we can agree on that. I don't think this is not a D'Angelo Russell case where I think like he actually has, some things that he's good at basketball wise. But I think he's going to get the opportunity. Let's talk about some of these other high owned guys. Jarrett Allen, a guy we talked about a little bit as being a, semi value play. No DeAndre Jordan in there. And because of Hassan Whiteside's size, so we saw yesterday with the Vika Zubac, and have somebody in there who could at least try to, put some sort of difference in there, some sort of barrier to keep him off the glass. And that's what Jarrett Allen should be able to do. Always a foul-prone guy, not as good per minute as he was last year, but we're talking about probably seeing 30, 35 minutes today, or at least as many minutes as Hassan Whiteside is getting. So how are you feeling about Jarrett Allen? You mentioned you're going to play him, but where are you shaking out relative to the field?
All right. One, we just got an ownership update a minute ago, so I assume that you're interested in that
what I'm pulling
information.
right now.
Okay. Two, I love Allen today. I might have been a day early or 2 days early. I can't remember how much I had of him like a couple days ago, but he's my third favorite play on DraftKings right now. He is quite clearly my favorite power forward relative to salary on FanDuel. I'm going to have a ton of him. I can't really see a way around it. He's just too cheap, especially with DeAndre Jordan out. Sorry, I'm burping wine.
Always a class act. At least better than burping Cavassier, though. I'll give you that.
That's because I'm out. Otherwise, I'd be burping Cavassier.
You want to talk about things that are sad? My bodega is no longer selling cases of White Claw. I don't know if it's a forever thing, but they're selling individual ones. And I'm not going to be buying individual White Claws like some sort of savage. You're giving me 12 at a time or bust. So I have nothing to drink besides water in the house.
I have never had a White Claw.
What are you? Have you had any sort of spiked seltzer-based drink?
No.
They're all delicious. Really light too. You pee clear. I feel like that's all I can ask out of a beverage. I'm not ruining my body, and I'm getting drunk. Like, what else do I want out of the world?
I don't know. Not White Claw.
Oh, whatever. All right, you're just not cool. You're not okay, boomer. I was watching the Twitch stream of yesterday because I
have no idea what you're talking about.
Have you not heard this phrase? It's like sweeping the nation for all the cool millennials, but also like apparently pissing off a lot of older people. So like, but it's really popular on like the Twitch community. So that stream yesterday of the Chargers game, just nonstop people saying, okay, boomer, like to everything. Cause it's meant, like referring to somebody as old or whatever. I'm very tired of that phrase already.
I've never heard that before in my life.
Oh man. You got to be on the internet streets more. I keep up with it.
Can't do it.
Anyway. Rest of the ownership guys, let's keep going. Karl Anthony Towns, a little bit underperformance last time versus Memphis, so they did throw pretty much everything they possibly could at him. Still almost had 50 fantasy points. So even if he fails relative to his price point, he's still giving you a pretty nice floor for tournaments. I'm going back to Towns today. I kind of was hoping his ownership would drop a bit with people perhaps afraid of that or just wanting to go elsewhere. You do have some decent values like Vucevic and Jokic, and you can also make an argument for Joel Embiid, who's been about a 1.9 fantasy point per minute player without Ben Simmons this year, and Drummond too, who's smashed Indiana a couple times already this year. But Towns is going to be the third highest owned guy on DraftKings. Going to be a little bit less owned on FanDuel, but still going to be looks like the top owned center right now. Where are you shaking out with Cat?
He's my favorite pay up option of the day. On FanDuel, that doesn't necessarily mean I end up with the most of him just because of the way positions work. But on a raw stats basis, particularly on DraftKings, he's my number 5 overall. He's the top guy to pay up for by what I would say is a mile.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's where I shake out too. Like I like him quite a bit. I do have a good amount of lineups with Vucevic and Jokic and also Whiteside because those guys, again, the prices are a little better for them. But ultimately, like, do I see Vucevic having the upside, especially with how crowded Orlando is and how many guys now can't pick up peripherals for him? Like Jonathan Isaac, I think, kind of an interesting play today. I know his price is up quite a bit because he just went nuts in his last game, but pace up spot for him, he should be able to find a bunch of peripherals. I think that's I worry that those guys could pull a little bit away. Vucevic's price is just too low, especially after it seems like he kind of found his footing last game.
So I liked him a lot this morning, and it's not that I don't like him now, but I took a deeper look into all of his stuff. I'm not nearly as high on him as I was previously. I think there's actually some changes going on for Vooch. he's scaring me a little bit more. 7,800 on DraftKings is more than viable. But at 8,400 on FanDuel, I'm going to the other enigma at center. That would be Nikola Jokic.
So yeah, where are you shaking out with him? He's been terrible. He's been under 36 fantasy points, I think 4 out of the last 5 games. But he has smashed Philly. Did smash him twice last year, one with Embiid, one without. I do think he's an intriguing play. I don't think he's going to be this bad forever. And he's people talk about him not being in shape. He's really not any more out of shape than he always is. He's kind of a soft guy, kind of a Winnie the Pooh build, for being honest. But still a great player and in a nice spot here, you'd think. So why Jokic and how much Jokic?
Why Jokic is easy because he's Nikola Jokic. I had 28% on my last crunch, but that also had a crunch with 24% Turner in it. So it wouldn't shock me if that number went up at this point. That was for FanDuel. On DK, he grades out as my 12th favorite play overall relative to salary. I just can't get away from him. Like, he's been bad. Sure. Really difficult to disagree, but he's been bad for Nikola Jokic standards. I still have him projected for 19 points, 10 boards, and 7 assists. A stock, or maybe like a steal and a half. That's still really good. And now his price is down, and there's going to come a time where he becomes the Nikola Jokic that you are like used to. And I'm not trying to get there after everybody else already does it. The goal for me is to get there before it. If I were playing like cash games or something, that's one thing. But these contests are heavily weighted to the top prize pool. You need to be first, not last. And in order to do that, I might have to take my lumps for a couple days. But ultimately, I don't expect Nikola Jokic to be an 8K player for the rest of the season.
I believe you said something there that once came from the poet laureate, Ricky Bobby.
Yes.
If you ain't first, you're last. No, I agree. Like, I'm on Jokic today. I think he's worth it. He still projects well despite his struggles. I really do think that you have to get these guys when they're cheap, and we keep seeing these guys who are priced down. Like even Markieff Morris the other day. I mean, not that they're even remotely comparable players, but when these guys are priced down, you do kind of have to seize on those moments as best you can. That's what DFS is squeezing the most out of these guys relative to their projections. And right. Jokic's price is down because he sucked 80% of the time. So whatever.
Right. Like, we have years and years of data on Nikola Jokic, and people are willing to throw it out over 2.5 weeks of the NBA season. I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I think he is a guy worth having exposure. We talked about Whiteside a little bit, but his ownership has soared up a bit. He's now going to be the 4th owned guy on DraftKings. A little bit less owned on, actually, wow, is he like much less owned on FanDuel? He's much less owned on FanDuel because the price is not quite as appealing there. I'm assuming you're not getting a ton of Whiteside given the pricing.
He's my favorite player on DraftKings. He is my 2nd favorite center. Well, let's say 3rd favorite center behind Jokic and Towns. On my dummy previously, I had 15% Whiteside. Anxious to see where that ends up. I had him and Turner pretty comparable, so I'm thinking I get about 20% Whiteside.
Okay, yeah, he looks to me like a great play on DraftKings. We did talk about it though a little bit earlier on, and again, the guys on the deeper dive, Alex and Adam did a great job talking about it as well. But Whiteside is always a foul risk. There's certainly some ways it can go south. That certainly gives you some interest in having some Scalabissier, just given the ownership that he's going to have, and also for me, how many Whiteside lineups I'm going to have. But it's a nice spot for him. I kind of worry about being in a fast-paced spot a day after playing high 20s minutes. Like, he's not that dude who runs comfortably and runs well. And that kind of scares me a little bit, but not enough to get away from him just because he could just kind of stand there and end up with 40 fantasy points.
Yeah. The problem is that they don't have options. Like, I think he just has to be out there one way or the other. He might look bad and might play bad, but it's hard to ignore the fact that the opportunity is there. And I'm going to bet more on opportunity than potential back-to-back issues.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. And I just, it is something that does give me a little bit of pause, not something that, I'm running away from, but I think, just to acknowledge it and maybe not go if you're a person who likes to load up on guys like I do sometimes, I'm not going to go 75% Whiteside because I just don't think that's the move because he has a risk profile.
Absolutely.
Let's keep talking about some of these higher owned guys, and please hit that like button as well, because it does help us out quite a bit here. The deeper dive guys gave us a nice start. Again, that free boom bust article is up, or the rather chart is up on the site now, because we hit the like threshold, but help us pass 1,000 here. It's Friday. It's been a long week. So we could use some positivity and some support. So just give us a little like right now, because we appreciate all of you guys being here as well on this Friday evening or afternoon, depending upon where you are.
Guys, you should really go check out that Boom Bust tool. Of all the stuff that we offer for the NBA season, it's the number one piece. I can't stress that enough. It provides more information than you'll find anywhere else.
Yeah, and Alex is mentioning too, people optimizing based upon the actual boom bust percentages, and apparently having some success with that. So a unique little wrinkle there if you are a person playing MMEs, or even if you are just making that one single entry lineup. It'll give you at least another window of data to look at. And if you want to run projections off of it, apparently that's something people are doing, and you can try it out and see if it works for you, because any little edge you can find is going to help in DFS.
Show.
Let's talk about another Portland player here who's getting a lot of ownership on DK and also on FanDuel, where he'll be one of the top owned shooting guard players on the day, CJ McCollum. So I think this is a really good spot for Lillard. I think this is a Lillard-Kyrie battle where there's not going to be a lot of defense in this game. There's going to be a lot of pace. And I do think Lillard does kind of get up for these measuring stick kind of games against other point guards who are his peers. But McCollum's price is so cheap, and you could certainly see a way that he soaks up a little bit more usage and goes nuts against the Nets team, who's playing with a lot of pace and not a lot of defense. Where are you shaking out on McCollum?
I like him. He grades out as my best shooting guard on FanDuel. I will say that I have Karis LeVert barely behind him in that same ranking. McCollum at 26% right now. Karis LeVert 8%. Karis LeVert's one of my favorite GPP plays of the day. I think he's going fully underrepresented. I love his price point. So in that regard, if I made like a very chalky build and CJ McCollum was my shooting guard on FanDuel, I would happily swap up, pay the extra $300, go to Karis LeVert, just make my lineup a little bit more unique.
Also, I did just post the Boom Bust link in the chat right now, which I believe should be working correctly. So if you want to check that on the YouTube chat, go hit it right now. Again, it is free today. So that is a normal feature, though. That is a premium feature. So if you want to get it every single day, go to awesemo.com/join and use that live before lock promo code. And again, also the NBA projections are Alex's own this year. I know that's something that people sometimes get confused by, but they're literally the ones that he's running. It's all about how you build lineups from there. But you're getting the top DFS players projections with any package you get. So go check those out.
Right. You used to get mine, and now you get Alex's. So for all of the people that hate me in this stream, that should be an incredible upgrade for you.
Yeah. Look, I like you, but I still want Alex's projections more.
Right, as you should.
That's just, look, he does it well, and those are his own. So go check them out. They are updated, of course, throughout the hour as well, as all these things change and all the news comes in, and even as Vegas totals update. There's a lot going on there. Let's keep talking ownership. Still in the same ownership run. Rodney Hood, another Trailblazer. Alex also, his projections do favor the Trailblazers quite a bit. I did one run on Fantasy Cruncher before during the deeper dive and was getting a ton of Blazers, including Hood, including Bazemore. Where are you shaking out with Rodney Hood? I have a little bit, as I mentioned, not dying to go back there with the Fields 20% on DK.
Yeah, so he's of the generally cheap guys. He's very appealing on DraftKings. I won't really have him on FanDuel. He's not that kind of price there. But for 3,600, with the ability for him to play 30 plus minutes, he's really difficult, especially in this spot. He's really difficult to ignore. So I understand why the chalk is there. I would be playing him as well. And just to double check, he's shooting guard, small forward on DraftKings.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes it even easier to fit him in. So I get it.
The usage is so crappy that he's down to under 14% usage. Like, he's just not involved. He's playing 30 minutes. I mean, if you're looking, minutes are important. That is a big part of it. But I don't know. I just don't see him. I just don't know that I see him getting that usage stay in a spot where, I think Lillard can smash. I think McCollum can smash. And Whiteside, we talked about it too at length. It's hard for me to imagine him really putting up a lot more today without things changing functionally in that lineup. But at that price, I think he's worth some stabs, and maybe not a 50-year lineup worth of stabs.
Right.
Another guy too, I want to just touch on some of the chalk, and also going to answer some questions here because people are asking about kind of esoteric guys, and we have an 11. Well, not even esoteric, but just random guys that aren't going to be highly owned. But I want to make sure we hit a bunch of questions today from the premium Slack, and of course any super chats as well on YouTube. Those will get you answered right away. Evan Fournier, I'm not on this one at all. I think Markelle Fultz is killing his value. I think it's killing his ability to handle the ball. The fact they're sharing a lot of court time, I think, is really ruining things for him. Jonathan Isaac also taking more usage away. Aaron Gordon still taking usage. Vucevic taking more usage recently. I just don't see this being a great spot for Fournier. I get the price and the pace up, but I really had a hard time getting to 20%. I think I ended up at 15. Actually, I might end up at 10 based on the recent shaving that I did. Where are you feeling about Fournier? Because he just hasn't been doing much.
Hold on. Okay, this guy's lying, so you can go away now. Goodbye.
Ooh.
Sorry.
We don't like liars in this chat.
No.
Fake news people too. There was somebody who fake newsed us, and unless you are completely mistaken and you are a person who I like and seems nice and apologetic, don't fake news people. People
yeah,
are
no,
looking
sorry.
at the chat
Sorry, that's what gave me. I saw that and I was like, no, I stopped listening immediately. By the way, yes, we're smashing Jokic. Dave, thanks for the super chat, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Dave. Hi, Dave. Dave, our favorite, one of our regulars here in the premium Slack, who I appreciate greatly. Great food picks. Your food picks are great, Dave. I'm telling you that because you super chatted us. Not based on reality.
What was your question?
About Evan Fournier. I just think he's not that great of a play,
Sure.
and I'm under the field on him.
Evan Fournier is my 4th ranked play on DraftKings. He is troublesome, I guess, elsewhere. He's the only legitimate paydown option at shooting guard, so I will be getting there. I wish there was a little bit more meat on the bone at the bottom of shooting guard. I'm hoping that there's enough value elsewhere that I just get priced out of him, but I understand why he's getting the love. I expect him to get a couple extra minutes too, so I like it.
Yeah. You know Terrence Ross, so that is going to help him out a little bit theoretically, but I just don't love what I've seen from I actually did watch the Magic, so I was kind of curious. I've been watching Jonathan Isaac because he's I read some preseason column about Zach Lowe talking about him, and I've been really intrigued by him because he's kind of like the prototypical modern NBA forward. He's not a great shooter yet, but maybe he can develop into that. And I just don't like Fournier with Fultz. I just don't feel like he gets that. Last year, he would have those moments where he's dribbling and creating assists and stuff, and he's not getting those anymore. And the usage can kind of flow around, but it worries me a little bit even at that price. And if he's going to be chalky too, I don't know. I just wanted to have less than him. I think he's one of the guys I just was I just want less than what the field's going to have.
I think that's a reasonable stance to take. He is a generally unappealing guy to roster. So
let's go to some of the premium Slack questions because we have some guys on asking about specific players. Let's see. Deadman active, Harry Giles active. Harry Giles active, yeah. People both tag me in that. And then people want to know here, any thoughts on Rashawn Holmes now that we're going to have Giles and Deadman active? I wasn't landing on Holmes anyway, but how are you feeling about this situation in Sacramento?
I don't get the sense that Giles is going to matter all that much. Holmes is very much in play in FanDuel, probably my second favorite power forward relative to salary. On DraftKings, he ranks 7th for me, so I actually think he's going a little underrepresented.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Holmes has been great. I don't think he's really at a risk to lose minutes. I do think, I would like to see Giles in there just because clearly what they're doing right now is not working as well. And it's kind of bizarre how Sacramento really is not Fox has been better. Hield's not been anything too worse. And it seems like these guys are just not getting lucky right now and they're not having any success. And I feel like Giles, his ability to pass and also, kind of do some things defensively and on the glass, I'd want to see him in there a little bit, but his health and all that, and he is Harry Giles, and he always has knee issues. That's a little bit of a risk if he's not going to see a lot of minutes. I think would be the one thing I would say.
No, not with Deadman active. If Deadman were out, I think that Giles would see some run, but I would still like Holmes. I don't think it's going to matter all that much. Justin Swearengin, thanks for the super chat. Can you recap FanDuel GPP value before lock? Yeah, I'll hit everything for me. Aaron Holiday, Neto, Evan Fournier. I might have a little bit of DeAndre Bembry, Culver, Josh Okogie, Jared Allen, 5,200, but still value at power forward. And then Bobby Portis if you need to pay all the way down at center, although I think that's probably a little bit too far if you're just trying to put in one lineup. But if you're max entering, you should have some.
Our old pal Mac in the YouTube chat asking, does Spags fanboy out more for Zach Lowe or Air Yards? AirYards.com apparently not going to be running because the NFL's Game Center thing changed. So they're actually not going to be updating after this week, which is a real sad moment in my household. So a shout out AirYards.com because they're not going to be having any data. I have to figure out somewhere else to get all my Air Yards information, which is going to really hurt me deep inside. Personally.
Oh no, how are people going to appropriate that information for fantasy football now?
I mean, the buy low model has really been doing well. Look, I enjoy all the content. We had Josh Hermsmeyer on on the contraries recently. So go check out his air yards buy low model column, which is going to be on Establish the Run. He does a great job with that. But yeah, I like knowing my depth, but I'll have to wing it the rest of the year. It's a sad day, but I like both equally. That much is for sure. And also check out EMAC tomorrow with Fast Eddie, by the way. Tomorrow and Sunday, they'll be here doing the cool old dudes. Don't call them OK Boomer, though. Don't drop that in the chat. They won't enjoy it.
Okay, Boomer.
All right, let's talk about let's talk about game stacks a little bit, because it does seem like on a slate of the size, it's not an ideal move, but we do have some really high totaled games. Did you land on any situations here where you feel like it was worth having a little bit more from two sides, like low owned spots, Cleveland, Washington, maybe not terribly highly owned, maybe going to a little more Golden State to match up with the Minnesota ownership you're going to have? Any game stacks at all jumping out to you as potentially being appealing?
I'll be honest, I have no idea. It's just not something that I even pay attention to. I'm sure that I have a bunch of them. I have no idea what they are.
Jacob Cruz, thank you for the super chat. Hey guys, recap DK GPP value. I don't know that we can fully do that, but I think we shook out as I'm more on Neto. I understand people wouldn't be. I'm also a little bit on Jakar Sampson relative to the field, more than the field, but not a play that a lot of people are super confident in. Anybody else DK value-wise that you would recommend for Jacob Cruz, or not Jacob Cruz, Jacob Cruz in his super chat?
Yeah, Fournier for me, Dwight Powell. I'm going to just stay in that low 4s to 3s. Scal, Rodney Hood, Aaron Holiday, Howell Neto, Markieff Morris is probably about as low as we're going for the guys in like the 3s and 4s.
Yeah, and also Hood, a guy who people are going to be playing. Bazemore, not terrible plays. And I am playing a little bit of Darius Garland. Your mileage may vary with that one. I just think he's getting enough shots up. Not looking great so far, but he was a good shooter in preseason, and that's why they got drafted. So they going against Washington. I don't hate the concept.
I can tell you right now that he is not a part of any of my player pools.
That is tough but fair. I just think with the ownership going to Hood, I felt like it was worth having a couple stabs at Garland. Really not a lot, but I wanted to have a little bit because he's getting court time and he is shooting. I think those are two things which seem important in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing like 24. I think I have him projected for like 24 minutes, something like that. That sound right to you?
I think he's been a little bit closer to like high mid 20s. I think he was at 28 recently. But yeah, I'd give him a little more. Oh, that's why my computer's run sluggish. I'm still running a crunch, which I didn't even realize.
There you go.
Okay. Now we figured it out. Yeah, Garland has played 28 minutes last game, 26 the game before that, 26 before that. So he's getting up there. He's still, been terrible per minute, but shot 11 times versus Boston. Going against Washington, he's going to be going probably against Isaiah Thomas. I do like that matchup for him.
Sure.
So I think Garland's worth the littlest bit of exposure.
That's fair. I'm just on a slate like this, he's just not making the cut for me.
Yep. All right. That's fair. Heading back to the premium Slack to see if we have anything. Do you guys still like a Koji with Graham starting? I'm from El Negro Loco, one of our regulars too. We appreciate greatly. How are you feeling about a Koji? He's not somebody I have much of today. I actually don't think I have any of them, to be honest.
I'm a fan on FanDuel, I guess. He's 3,700. I think he makes for a really decent alternative to Culver. Right now, Culver's at 55% ownership and Okoji's at 11. I just don't think that disparity is valid. I would rather just if you're gonna have, let's say you're gonna have 66% ownership to those two guys, I'd probably rather split them 33 and 33.
Yep. Okay, that seems fair. Yeah, I just think I would go other places personally based on his DK salary, but yeah, I get why you'd go there on FanDuel. Another FanDuel specific question from Geek Mike B. On FanDuel, would you punt center with Portis to get an AD Doncic Beal lineup, or would you just pay up at center?
If I were playing one lineup, I would probably have some trouble getting to Portis just because I think the middle tier of center on FanDuel is really appealing. I mean, I love Jokic. I'd be cool with Vooch. You could talk me into Gobert. I think Whiteside grades out as a fantastic option. Thomas Bryant, Jonas. To go all the way down to Portis. Look, it's the Knicks. If you told me that Bobby Portis played 36 minutes tonight, I'd be like, of course he did. There is that extra variability of what could happen. But I also wouldn't be shocked if he played 22 minutes and they ran Taj Gibson into the ground instead. There's just a lot of variability there. I don't think that you need to get that cute in one lineup. But he is appealing.
I think it's tough because I would assume, I mean, we don't have starters for that game yet, right? I don't believe.
No. I'm sure they don't even know them themselves.
Yeah, Gibson did start the second half, but that did seem like it was just because of Drummond. Like, you don't want Bobby Portis at center against Drummond.
No.
But like today, I don't think it's the same issue where who are you worried about on Dallas? That's gonna be a real issue at center. I don't think there is anybody.
Dude, I cannot stop getting Kent Bazemore on fantasy draft, and it's making me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can get a guy who played 13 minutes yesterday, you got to do it.
I've been lopping off everything that I can get right now. I mean, he's like stupid cheap, but yeah, I can't do it.
Alex has him projected well. Like, he definitely came up for me, and I was surprised, but I was like, I get it. He's cheap enough, and he's kind of has that same hood appeal where that hood appeal, yeah, and same Rodney hood appeal. He's really popular in the streets. But he's a guy who really can have upside here going against Brooklyn, who's played with a ton of pace, one of the highest combined totals on the slate, and should be the fastest paced game on the slate. Actually, it is now the highest combined total, just shy of 239. So, if there's going to be a day where Hood or Bazemore score a little more, this is probably it. But then knowing how it goes, it'll be like Hazonia who goes nuts. Anthony Tolliver's going to have a 40-point day.
Wouldn't shock me at this point. I don't know what to do with Portland. They're a really weird team.
Anybody you're getting a lot of so far who you find weird? And we'll talk more about, I guess, the individual plays, but just give me one guy who you got a lot more of the field on that you're, for whatever reason, but you're feeling more confident about than people seem to be.
I mean, Karis LeVert from before is probably one of those types of guys. I mean, Jokic to a degree. I'm still going based on my dummy crunch. I mean, we had Giannis projected at 10% ownership on FanDuel, and I had 40. So is that the kind of guy that we're looking for? De'Aaron Fox. I had like 40% De'Aaron Fox previously, and he's at 15% ownership. There's a guy that's not really getting talked about.
What's making him pop for you? Is he, because he's not that cheap on DK, but I think he's very good and he's looked better this year.
What's his price on DraftKings?
$8K flat.
Okay, so he's 8,200 on FanDuel. So he's a better price relative to DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. I just think that he's getting shorted a little bit. There's a gap after him. There's a $900 price fall until you get to Lonzo. And anytime you see those sorts of gaps in pricing, you tend to see the guy at the bottom, if he projects well on a per minute, or not on a per minute basis, if he projects well relative to his salary, it tends to congregate there. And right now, that's sort of my ownership funnel. So I expect to have a bunch of De'Aaron Fox. I'm still finishing off my FanDuel crunch right now. Probably pretty close to the 1,000 lineups done, so I might be able to give an actual answer. But for right now, I'm expecting. Let me click back to it. Wrong tab. I'm expecting De'Aaron Fox to be my most exposed point guard on FanDuel.
I mean, look, it's not like Trae Young's defense is really going to stop a lot.
No, it is not. I am exporting right now, so I will be able to give an actual answer.
And a very friendly Vegas total for Sacramento, too. A 10-point boost on their scoring so far to start the year. So that would certainly help. You would assume. I mean, these guys have to shoot better. They're shooting 43% on the year. That's probably a big. I mean, I'll go on a limb. Shooting 43%, you're not going to win a lot of games to start the year. So these guys are due to heat up a little bit more. And Fox, if these guys do heat up more, Fox can have that assist upside. He's got a very high 35% assist rate on the year. So he's been involved.
All right, let's see. Refresh. And
also, YouTube chat, by the way, really wants to hear about Troy Brown. I don't see him as a good value overall. I get it. He's starting, but he's going to lose usage in that spot too. So I don't really feel like Troy Brown's a guy that I want much of. I get it if you're trying to find for value, but yeah. Alex has him projected for a little bit over 5X or barely over 5X. I'm not terribly stoked about it, but how are you feeling about Troy Brown?
I have 4% on FanDuel right now. Also, I ended up with 42% De'Aaron Fox, which I think is pretty tasty. Let me make sure I don't have any boosts or anything on anybody before I run this. Yeah, 42%. My biggest stand at point guard. I also have 49% Giannis at a 10% number. I really hope that works out well. And I'm smashing my boy Jokic. So after riding for him pretty hard for the past 2 years, I really need him to just, I don't know, get his shit together.
We talked about it. He's about as due as anybody you can talk about on the slate of having a better day. And just because he's been bad recently doesn't mean he'll be bad forever. That is the whole point of it. You made a very compelling argument for it earlier, just being there early, and this is a spot where you can be there early.
Yeah, well, I am very much there early. That much I can tell you. I'm uploading my lineups right now just so I can get a dummy in, but then I'll be significantly more engaged.
No, that's fair. I'll tell you one guy who I ended up. So actually, I'll give you a couple plays that I ended up on more than the field of, just because I think they're in nice spots. Julius Randle. Weird thing with Julius Randle, really hates Dallas. And we talked about it yesterday with Eddie, and I kind of thought it was like, just more of a silly thing, just talking about revenge narratives, because it did jump out to me that Goran Dragic had gone off for the last 4 seasons every time he went to Phoenix. And then he actually ended up getting minutes opened up to him because the injuries for Miami, Justice Winslow being out. So that was a situation to me where I was like, it's worth having some Dragic just because this is a weird aberration. So Randall goes nuts every time he plays Dallas. And he was, I think they were trying to get him as a free agent at one point. He didn't go there. I think they might have pulled the deal from him at some point. But I do think in a team like New York, where Randall, he's had the usage, he's had the ball in his hands, he's been assisting well, he's been rebounding well. I do kind of think this could be a spot where Randall's a little bit sneaky. He's up to 10% ownership, so he's not completely off the board. But still, actually, no, I know he's higher than 10%. But still, relatively sneaky compared to some of these other guys. Do you have any Randall at all, or any Randall interest in a spot versus Dallas where like he and Luka, I think, are an interesting run back duo?
Yeah, I thought I would get more earlier today because he stood out to me. I liked the spot. Fizdale mentioned that he could potentially start at the 5 as well. I think it's a good spot. I don't think that Dwight Powell is particularly able to handle him. I don't think that Porzingis matches up well with him just because of Randall's raw strength. So I get it. I have 10%. He's at 15 on FanDuel. He's just a guy for me today, but I understand the appeal. If that number showed up as 40, I wouldn't do anything to change it.
Oh yeah. Also, people pointing out, I did know this too, but for some reason I didn't mention it in that spiel. But yeah, he is from Dallas too, and I think that was also why he was extra butthurt about the Mavs screwing with him that one year that he was a free agent. There's a lot of things going for Randall that make him intriguing to me, and he is a guy that I'm above the field on. Another game I'm above the field on, or at least a couple pieces. So yesterday we all played Jimmy Butler. We're all excited about it. He put up 45 fantasy points. His price is the same. Now he's a forgotten man. Nobody's talking about him today. Going into LA, granted he probably did see some LA nightlife last night, but he plays in Miami. What does it matter? But I do think going Butler and LeBron is an ownership thing that's just not represented at all right now. It's come up a little bit throughout the day, but still not where it should be, given that these guys can go back and forth. Game going to be a little slower paced for Miami, but still going to have some pace up spot for the Lakers. So I really like going Butler and LeBron in at least a couple lineups. How are you feeling about these guys in a game that really is overlooked? Like the West Coast games today seem mostly overlooked.
I literally have 0 on FanDuel.
Ooh.
He is not in this table, which means that he didn't show up in a crunch of 1,000 lineups.
Wow. Okay.
On Yahoo, no sign of him there as well. I mean, he doesn't grade out all that well for me. The DraftKings price, though, I think is a little unique. He's $9,200 on FanDuel, $7,400 on DK. $1,800 price gap is pretty massive. I might have to just pull up Miami so I could look at this in a better way. LA Lakers. Let's not forget, Lakers defense, 8% better than average at limiting fantasy points per possession. They've been fantastic so far this season. But yeah, if I were playing Butler anywhere, it would be DK and fantasy draft. His price on FanDuel and especially Yahoo take him completely off the table for me.
Okay, yeah. To me, the DK price is obviously what I'm looking at first and foremost. But he's just also due for some positive regression on his shot, shooting only 44% from the floor. And I do like Jimmy in kind of grinded out games. Like I think the one with Phoenix wasn't exactly a grinded out game, but still spot a little bit of a slower pace. And I think he really can thrive in this situation here. Assuming Justice Winslow being out again, probably gonna help him out. I just think he's a guy who can really get it done. And this game too, really not having a ton of ownership. And same thing for Kyrie going against Lillard. I talked about it a little bit earlier. I think these guys really can go head to head. I know people are probably going to want to find the extra money to go to Luka rather than paying for Kyrie. But Lillard's fairly cheap for what he's done. He's been over 50 fantasy points more often than not. And these teams really just don't have good defenses and also are playing with good pace. So I'm really intrigued by the dual aspects of this and trying to get there with not full game stacks, but hoping that I get some sort of leverage on the field by having these guys who go head to head. Do you have any Kyrie or Lillard interest at all?
No Kyrie interest. He's behind just about every other guard for me at the top. Lillard and Doncic are basically equal as far as I'm concerned. I have them both behind Trae Young. I have them both behind D'Angelo Russell. Again, this is all relative to salary. So I think that I would be getting to those guys a little bit more on DraftKings compared to anywhere else. On FanDuel, I like Kyrie more than Lillard, $300 cheaper. I like Kyrie more than Luka. Luka's the most expensive point guard there. But again, I would rather get to Trae Young. I think Kyrie is much more in play on FanDuel right now. Although De'Aaron Fox at 8,200 is obviously soaking up quite a bit of my exposure.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And I think too, I'm surprised by the Trae thing because I feel like wouldn't be a guy that you tend to love. But where are you shaking out with your ownership on Trae then if he's ranking so highly for you at the position?
That's a really good question. So he's my second most owned point guard on Fantasy Draft. I'm just slightly above the field on Trae on FanDuel. That's where I'm playing sort of the most lineups. De'Aaron Fox just grading out so much better because of the $1,100 price tag savings. And then on Yahoo, I don't have Trae Young at all. He's $42. That's just too expensive as far as I'm concerned.
Tommy G asking a sort of game theory question, which I don't know if you all have an answer to, but I'll ask you. With so many cash lines getting put in single entry GPPs, how different do you need to get to have an edge in them?
I would build a cash lineup and probably swap out 2 spots. Like if you're just looking for the most generic answer, take the optimal that comes out of Alex's projections and switch 2 people. Would be a good start for just like trying to be different. It's a little bit more complex than that, but like in a general way, starting with an optimal lineup and making 2 moves is probably going to be enough.
You guys got 13 minutes to lock, by the way, so start thinking about getting those lineups in. Check out that top boom bust tool, which again is free. Actually, let me see if I have the link here to do that one more time. Awesome. Damn it, I lost it. I have so many freaking tabs open because of NBA and NFL going.
It's too many tabs.
I hate an overloaded, a hoarding amount of tabs. It kills me.
I probably have 200 open right now across like 6 different browsers. I've got 3. I have 3 browsers open right now. I have Chrome, Opera, and Firefox all open.
Is that because you're running the crunches in different browsers?
Yeah, I have Twitter open in Opera, crunches in Fantasy Draft, and then all of my generic browsing happens in Chrome. And then obviously the incognito tab for the good stuff.
Of course, you have to have. I didn't even go incognito with mine. Because sometimes you got something you want to save. You want to be able to go back to it.
I have to because I wasn't for the longest time before streaming, and then I tried to type like popcorn machine, but Pornhub came up, and they were like, "Oh, I see you." And I was just like, "Gotta stop doing that." Clear cookies.
2 important sites for any DFS player.
Actually, it was Celeb Jihad, but that's neither here nor there.
Also, we had some questions before about Brandon Ingram. He's a guy I have very little of today. I think his price is just a little bit too high for this spot against Toronto. Do you like him as a player? Do you think he's really taken some strides this year? And I was really down on Brandon Ingram that entire Lakers experience. I was one of the people who thought Kyle Kuzma was better. I don't even think that's an argument now. Ingram has taken some real strides. He looks about as close to Kevin Durant as any besides Kevin Durant looks to me, to my naked eye. But where are you shaking out with Ingram? Is he somebody you're getting to at all? Where this price up really to me at an untenable level?
No interest in Ingram for me. Let me just see where he lands on DraftKings. But man, he is like quite the poor man's Kevin Durant. Yeah, I don't have him at all.
Okay. No, that's fair. Like, I don't think this is a great spot for him, but I really don't ever have an issue going to him. I think the thing to me though is you really want to go to him on the days where you have no Holiday. Like if you gave me him on a day with no Holiday, I'll pay that 8,100 on DK. On a day with Holiday in there, going against Toronto, who is a tough defensive team, one of the better defensive efficiency ratings in the league. I just don't think it's a great spot for him. I know what he did in that opener, but still not a spot where I'd want to get to him at that price point on this particular slate as well.
Patrick Williams says, check out the Great Suspender, good Chrome extension for having tons of tabs open. Man, homie, let me pull this one out here. I got Darius Garland up there. Great Suspender, baby.
I use that too. I actually, it's weird now because I've been not having some tabs pause because it gets a little annoying sometimes. Like if you're watching like an NBA stream or something, then it'll randomly suspend. So I've been unsuspending a lot. But yeah, it's a helpful tool to keep your Chrome, especially Chrome, because Chrome takes up a lot of resources sometimes.
Certainly does.
This is a question that I'm surprised Rabosha was asking, or Rabashua. I always do it the wrong way. If you had to lock 3 guys on FanDuel, who would they be? We don't really do lock type conversations here, but if you had people who you're considering in that way, who would be the ones that you would want the most?
If I had to lock 3 people on FanDuel, I would lock Jared Allen, Jarrett Culver. The next answer should be CJ McCollum, but bug it. Nikola Jokic.
Oh, okay. You're backing out what you're playing in your lineups, which is something we do, by the way. People, I think, sometimes get confused and think like, oh, they're not playing the things. Like, I can tell you, when I talk about Jaylen Brown on the show and he does jack shit for the entire thing, I am feeling that as much as anybody out there. So that's our lives. We are about as upfront about these things as we can be.
100%. Nikola Jokic is my most exposed center on FanDuel tonight.
MC Gratza in the premium Slack asking Nunn and Kennard with the same price at shooting guard on Yahoo, as are Jared Allen and Holmes at center. Who would you like? I would prefer Kennard. I got Nunn real hard yesterday too. He did not fly for me. So I would go Kennard. Just also a better spot for Kennard too. Kennard and Allen would be my picks.
Shooting guard on Yahoo?
Yep.
Kennard?
I don't know. That's what MC Gratza says.
Let me just make sure that I'm not looking at this incorrectly. Kennard, do I not have him? Or am I just blind?
Probably both.
Do I have the position in here wrong? BN4. Just give me 1 second, because he's showing up at small forward, but I know that that's not right. So I think I have the wrong position. I think I have this FanDuel position column in here. Yeah, I do. BQ. Just give me 1 sec. This is a quick fix. I couldn't see it, and I was trying to compare it, and he wasn't there. All right, there we go. And refresh. There we go. So Kennard by a mile over Nunn. I don't have a single share of Nunn. I wouldn't play Nunn. Luke Kennard is my second most exposed shooting guard. And then the other 2 people were Allen and
Holmes.
Holmes, my most exposed center on Yahoo. Jared Allen is 4th. So Holmes and Kennard would be my plays there.
Interesting. I'm surprised that you don't have Allen there too.
Holmes is $17. He's just
okay.
I have them very, very close to each other. Rashawn Holmes in a GPP probably has a more variant outcome than Jared Allen.
Okay, that's fair. Guys, hit that like button too. It would be nice to get to 1,000 here before we call it quits on the day. So please hit that like button. It helps us keep the lights on. And we just have goals. We just have goals in life.
Squad goals.
But real fast on Nunn too, because he really did. I was shocked at how poorly he played yesterday. He lost some minutes too, which I didn't watch that full game, so I don't know why. But he really, you would think he would gain in that spot. And granted, Dragic went hot. That certainly was a contributing factor, but I just don't think Nunn is the play like that's you can lock in at this point. Like if Kennard, you can lock in his role. Like what he's doing. He's been assisting well. He's been shooting well. As long as Tim Frazier is still out, as long as Rose is still out, as long as Blake is still out, Kennard is very much a comfortable play, whereas Nunn is just not that. So I don't even think those two are even remotely close.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like Nunn quite a bit as a player, but he's getting heated right now. He's getting heated pretty bad. Manningdale City in the YouTube chat saying, did Josh just say CJ McCollum? Whoa, Josh is the CJ whisperer for me. Elaborate on CJ, Josh.
I'm not exactly in the minority today, am I? CJ McCollum is projected for 22% ownership on DraftKings. It's projected for 26% ownership on FanDuel. You should just be playing CJ McCollum today. I don't think that I'm taking a stand that's like unique.
Let's see. Chris, I will hit the like button if you answer my question. Thoughts on Neto?
Neto.
I don't know. I know his name, and for some reason, seeing it without Raul just threw me off.
You said the full Brazilian version of his name earlier today, and now you're just like Neto. I don't know who this person is. It was 45 minutes ago.
Talked about him up front, Jonathan, so please don't spam the chat with your question, but I like him quite a bit. I get the reasons why people are down on him, but I think he gets the run today, and I think he's a good enough assist guy where he can make it happen. There are credible reasons to not go to him. Josh Richardson could be a lead ball handler. Then you could put Thibault in. You could also have Horford taking some assist upside away. But I think Neto's a fine enough player. I think Raulzinho Neto is doing a good job tonight. I'm hoping. Tough matchup, but
we have him at 30% on FanDuel. I have 6. Also, since we probably I need to put this out there into the public. I'm not making any updates in the next 5 minutes, barring any really crazy disasters. We are currently projecting Jarrett Culver at 55% ownership, I believe, on FanDuel. I have 28. So I guess I'm all the way back to the morning. I have some. I've got half the field. That's my Jarrett Culver take.
Similarly to you, actually, somebody pointing this out in the YouTube chat, which I'm seeing now. Alex tweeted 18 minutes ago, update, I ended up with a decent amount of Raul Neto, but I still don't like it. So I like it. I ended up with a lot of them.
Remember when I said it was 55 and 11 and I'd like to split him and Okoji on FanDuel?
Mm-hmm.
I have 28 and 23. So in practice, I'm largely doing what I was talking about.
Look, you are a man of your word. And if you change, you tell people about it. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I'll just pretend like I didn't say that shit.
The Beard 10 bringing up TJ Warren, who I think is kind of an interesting guy to talk about. Didn't have a big day that last time with Jeremy Lamb out, but he's been pretty solid. I think his price is a little bit tough, but and I do think Jakar Sampson, I think his role is sustainable. He shot 12 times in that game. I think that's what's going to happen with Jeremy Lamb out for now. But I'm not a ton on TJ Warren. I have very little. I think I have 5% of him. Did you get any TJ Warren today on FanDuel? Where I don't even know if he's a viable play there.
I assume that I didn't. I don't see his name anywhere, so I'm just going to go with no. Reminds me, I need to build a summary sheet.
Yeah, on DK, he's 6,100, so that's a little bit of a different equation there.
Yeah.
Our boy Stank2323 asking Conley or Lowry for a DK GPP. I would certainly favor Lowry, but I think there's a pretty big price difference.
We have a boy named Stank.
Stank. I made a joke yesterday about how I'm all about getting that Stank. So I'm always going to Stank now. I like Stank quite a bit.
All about that Stank. About that Stank. What was the question?
Conley or Lowry? Conley or Lowry for a DK GPP?
I can only imagine it's Lowry, but let me double check.
Yeah, I mean Lowry's been playing too well, I think, to get away from. But
Lowry or Conley? Lowry, not close.
Yeah, okay, we're on the same page there. If Napier plays, should we pivot off of Culver? I would say that's a yes.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, and I would also smash play Napier too if he's in. Like I think that's really nice spot for him today going against Golden State.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer change.
Let's see. Checking the YouTube chat, see if anything good is on here. Napier could be the best value if he's playing. Van Dam NYC, one of our regulars here, says, yep, that is an opinion I agree on fully. Taji Smith, let's either or, as we always love a good either or. That's what we're known for on this channel. Drummond and Brogdon or Cat and Fox for FanDuel. One of your key guys here. Who'd you go with?
Drummond and Brogdon, Cat and Fox. It's got to be Cat and Fox for me. Although I don't think that I have a ton of Drummond or Brogdon.
Yeah, I don't either. And look, I think they're both fine plays. I do think Brogdon was a little bit affected by having Aaron Holiday out there. Like, not that Aaron Holiday is a high usage guy or anything, but he did take a little bit of ball handling time. Did take some shots off the table too. I'm Holiday not a play to me because he had his best possible game in that spot last time out. I think shot 70% or something and had some peripherals. But I do think there's a mix with Holiday and Brogdon I didn't love in that spot. So I have less Brogdon today.
Okay.
Yeah. And Fox, I mean, you mentioned Fox earlier. I think Fox is the play and Cat's also definitely the play. DFS Poppy, I'm playing Fournier. Pray for me. Yeah. Look, I'm praying for you. I don't want Fournier to do well because I didn't play a lot of him, but he's a cheap guy and cheap guys can get things going. We've talked about that enough.
Right. If you're gonna lose out on someone, you want to lose out on them when they're not expensive.
Oh, also Anthony Lascano asking Josh, what were the new Vooch concerns that you had or that you found?
Just rates are down, and those down rates are corresponding to down player props as well. Whereas I didn't see that same sort of issue with like Jokic, for example. His rates, while he hasn't been good, that doesn't seem to be bearing out in his public betting totals.
Yep. All right. That seems fair. Last question here, which we're not going to get before lock anyway for FanDuel, but I started it and I'm God damn it, I'll finish it. Gannon is asking in the YouTube chat, LeVert or Fred VanVleet for a FanDuel GPP. I would favor LeVert.
Yep, LeVert.
Yeah, LeVert's
Not
pretty
close.
sneaky play.
I have 32% Karis LeVert on FanDuel and 4% Fred VanVleet.
Okay.
Here's my overall exposures. Average across the 3 sites. Most exposed from the top to bottom. Whiteside, Allen, Giannis, Fox, AD, Fournier, LeVert, Wiggins, Holmes.
Interesting. Okay.
And Wiggins is a fantasy draft play.
I think Wiggins is kind of sneaky today, to be honest. Like, he's made some improvements this year. Like, he's still not a guy I want to trust, especially with his price coming up. But, he shot 20 times in that game. He shot 21 times the last 2 games. And he's involved. And again, going against Golden State, like that's a really good get well spot for anybody. And if you have that much usage, that's a situation where he can go nuts at not much ownership.
Ignore me. That is a Yahoo play.
Well, it doesn't matter now anyway. Let's do a quick round of Uncle Chubbs and Uncle Spags likes before we turn it out here, because I do have the DK Mini Blizzard, a nice $15 tournament. Why would you go cheaper when you can go more expensive, but whatever. Here we go. Top owned play of the early games here. Evan Fournier, never Google his last name specifically. 22% expected ownership in the DK Mini Blizzard. How does Uncle Chubbs feel about that much ownership for 11?
He's 22, you said?
Yep.
I mean, he's my number 4 guy. I had his implied ownership slightly lower than that, but I tend to have everyone's slightly lower than that. So I would have had double that.
Yeah. Okay. I do not have double that. I have half of that. And I'm cool with it because I think he's just a lost man in that offense right now amidst all these guys kind of getting better and he's stagnant. So I'm cool with it, but it's a lot of Fournier for you fine folks out there. Bradley Beal, 18%. Uncle Spags likes that quite a bit. I think he's got some upside. He was one of Alex's better graded plays on the day. Price too low. How does Uncle Chubbs feel about old Bradley at 18.4?
That feels really high. I don't know if I have him with any sort of volume. I have 9% on FanDuel, 3.5 on Yahoo, and 8 on Fantasy Draft. So I guess I'm kind of down on that Beal exposure. Uncle Chubbs, not a fan. Taj Gibson starting.
That's a good value play. I mean, not a good value play, but that's a value play.
I told you it wasn't out of the realm of possibility.
No, I didn't land on. I might have put some in.
I don't mean to. I'm not interested in Taj Gibson. This is a very indirect play for Bobby Portis. We'll see how many minutes Portis gets now. Might still just be 20. You know.
Malcolm Brogdon at 13%. Does that give you any feelings either way?
I mean, that's probably reasonable. I have a little bit of him on FanDuel and Fantasy Draft. I don't have him on Yahoo. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Just Ben P in the premium Slack saying, thanks for making me Google Fournier. Yeah, you can find some weird things there. I think you still mostly find more Evan Fournier than you used to, but you'd certainly find some really not pleasant images.
It's horrible.
Yeah, Brogdon, look, that ownership for Brogdon's pretty low, what we know of him, but I do have the objections again with Aaron Holiday and how they play together. So I think there's a low risk to it, but certainly some upside. Isaiah Thomas at 12%. I'm intrigued by that. Uncle Spags likes that one a little bit. I think he does have some upside, a little bit less with the starting group with Beal, but how do you feel about Isaiah?
I would have had 0.
Okay. I have a little bit, but I'm under the field on him, but I think 11 seems fine to me. Pretty cheap. Troy Brown, 10%. I get it. You guys really seem to like Troy Brown out there, so sure, but not a play for me. No. Troy Brown, would you have 10%?
I would have had 0. He was 89th ranked for me.
Here's the 2 interesting ones. Vucevic, 9%, and Andre Drummond, 8%. That I would like that quite a bit if I had some of them. I have enough Vucevic. I'm above the field on that. But it's an intriguing play because if those guys can definitely beat Cat, and it seems like Cat will have a lot of ownership if those guys are getting owned there.
I would much rather have Vooch than Drummond in that scenario. I really didn't play much Cat. Okay. That's not true. I didn't play much Cat on FanDuel and Yahoo. I have him in like everything on Fantasy Draft, but his price was stupid there.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel about his price on DK, but we'll find out if he really should just annihilate Golden State today, as long as he gets the opportunity to do so, and Andrew Wiggins doesn't jack up 50 shots, which he does like to do that. Let's run through these two real fast. If any of them jump out to you, Josh, just stop me. Sabonis 7%, Aaron Holiday also 7%, Markieff Morris also 7%, Rui Hachimura 6, Thomas Bryant 5, TJ Warren a little bit under 5, Tristan Thompson at 4. I think that's also kind of intriguing because he has big upside. He projected well for me, and I think he and Kevin Love are in a nice spot. Jordan Clarkson 4.3, Aaron Gordon 4.2, Christian Wood 4.1. Sure. Kevin Love 3.5. I kind of like that. He's at a weird price and he's been a monster. But what? Yeah. Any thoughts on Kevin Love at all? Because we didn't talk about him at all.
I don't have any thoughts on it. I mean, we're talking 3% guys. Like, yeah, sure.
Bruce Brown 3.3. Jakar the god at 3%. Let's see. Don't let me down, Jakar. I believe in you. I saw you in Chicago. I watched all your games.
He is not in my DraftKings player pool.
This is me pulling the tie at the being real anxious about it. Jonathan Isaac 2.4. I find that very intriguing against Memphis in the pace up spot. Darius Garland 2.3. Very fair. I'm a little bit above it because why not? Colin Sexton 2.1. CJ Miles playing shockingly big minutes. 1.8. I think that's a little bit interesting.
Why is that shocking? The Wizards are fucking terrible, man.
Well, the fact that they're going up, and he's also been shooting he's pretty much the second unit usage guy, which I think does give him some upside today.
He's probably the best shooter on the team behind Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I agree. I think he deserves the usage he's getting, and it's interesting now because there's really nobody else. Now that Isaiah Thomas is in that second group, somebody has to take it away.
Here's the starting lineup for the Pelicans: Ball, Holiday, Ingram, Space, Okafor. Space being Nikola Melli.
Oh, good for him. I like Nikola. He's not going to do much in that group, but I like him.
What the fuck is he starting for?
Hart?
No, I just don't know why he's starting. Is more the question that I'm asking.
It's like, I don't know. Are we doing a pop quiz?
No. I just that's.
He played well in the opener versus Toronto. Like he did space the floor pretty well for him.
Which was the only time that he played more than 50. Well, he's played more than 15 minutes twice. The most recent game, he got the DNP. He played 10 minutes before that. Now he's a starter. So didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, maybe it's Italian Pride Night. He's Italian, right? I think he's Italian.
I have no idea, dude.
I want to believe he's Italian as an Italian American. I want to support him more. And then let's see if anybody played themselves, just so we can round this out here. Kyrie. Oh, Miles Turner, 0.01%. Congratulations. You played yourself. There you go. This is probably an in-depth question from Ben P in the premium Slack. But hey, before you guys leave, can you quickly touch on your strategy adjustments you'd make for the later, shorter slates? Like what would you do differently compared to the main slate?
I wouldn't do anything differently.
Yeah, no. I think it's still the same process.
Yep.
You maybe take more stabs at random guys if it's like a 2-gamer, and just hope that they have an upside. Like guys who have really big standard deviation numbers per minute, I think is always intriguing. Because those guys can spike an upside. But it's still the same process. There's nothing much different.
Yeah, nothing changes.
All right. You guys hit that like button before you go. I don't think we crossed 1,000, but I also didn't bother you too much. But we'll be back tomorrow. We won't be back tomorrow, but Live Before Lock will be back tomorrow with Fast Eddie Fair and EMAC. And of course, we are presented by Fantasy Drafts. So go right now to fantasydraft.com and use the promo code AWESEMO. You should be playing over there because it's all the rake-free DFS you can want. And it is a great way to build your bankroll and also just a smarter way to play. You should be not giving money away if you don't have to. So go to fantasydraft.com right now. Use the promo code AWESEMO. And tune in tomorrow. I have On the Contrary with Alex and a fun guest, The Siege. The Siege DFS, CJ, whatever his last name is, Kaltenbach. In fact, that's it. Kaltenbach. I'll know it by tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow. That'll be a fun one. Sunday, me and Josh will be back for Live Before Lock for the NFL slate locks. So tune in then. And Josh, anything you want to hit on before we call it quits?
No, go Hassan Whiteside, go Jared Allen, go Giannis. That one's the big one for me. Giannis and De'Aaron Fox. If those two pop, gonna be good shit for me. Also, little cat says, "Here's the middle finger for you."
Wait, did you just hold up a cat?
No, I've got a cat on my shirt, flipping people off.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see you now. Okay. Yeah, why do you have a cat shirt?
Because it's flipping people off.
Oh, okay. It's a big cat guy, huh? Cat mom, Josh?
Only cat thing I have. We don't own cats.
I like cats. I actually met a really cool cat yesterday.
We're not going to do this on the stream.
Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button before you go. We'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your weekends. And of course, good luck.
Later, guys.